Elizabeth Schulze says stocks rebounded today, but there's a lot of what ifs.
It doesn't mean that the rest of the tariffs at this point aren't moving forward. So there is still a lot of uncertainty in the stock market and a lot of uncertainties for American businesses as they're trying to plan about what does this look like for them if we do move forward with those tariffs. And keep in mind that the White House has reiterated that it still does plan to move forward with reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd. And that would be a pretty dramatic change in cost for a lot of businesses.
Lawmakers are offering condolences after the sudden passing of Democratic Congressman Sylvester Turner of Texas. He was 70 years old. Christians are marking Ash Wednesday today, the start of Lent. In Rome, Pope Francis sent a message of hope. He's still hospitalized, battling pneumonia. This is ABC News. President Trump laid out his vision last night, addressing a joint session of Congress. Democrats interrupting several times in protest. One congressman now facing possible censure.
The resolution to censure Texas Democrat Al Green was offered by Washington State Republican Dan Newhouse.
Whereas the conduct of the representative from Texas disrupted the proceedings of the joint address and was a breach of proper conduct.
Passage would lead to a formal reprimand on the floor in a procedure that used to be rare. If the resolution passes, Green would be the fifth member of Congress, the fourth Democrat, to be censured this decade. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Google Messages rolling out an AI-powered scam detection tool. The feature monitors what may start out as innocent text and turns into suspicious patterns. The tool then sends a warning. Right now, that feature available to Android users in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
The inverted reality indeed, ladies and gentlemen, on a night when demon rats can't even be bothered to stand and applaud and cheer for the survivor of brain cancer, a young black child in the halls of Congress, when demon rats can't bother to be standing for the survivors of Laken Riley, her family, when demon rats abuse the hallowed halls of the Congress. Indeed, we're living in an inverted reality of sick, demonic lunatics who represent offices in Congress and use their vile self-aggrandizement, self-enrichment, their nonsense. It's ridiculous. And with that, folks, welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania with my co-host Todd McKinley in East Tennessee. There he is. There's my favorite NCO right there. And down there at the bottom, we got John Grosvenor, who is in the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire. Gentlemen, boy, you know, we never, ever get an evening where we can just chill and relax. Although in my absence, as I drove up from D.C. last night, I did a lot of movie talk last night while I was around. So we're not going to have that tonight. We're going to focus because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, there are 200th episode for the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN. John, I can't believe it's been 200 episodes. It's really gone fast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was just thinking about that exactly. How long have we been doing this? Well, 200 weeks.
Wow, that's like let me use some of that Common Core math. That's like 40 years, man.
Yeah, 40 years.
Not quite, just a little bit over the top there.
I think Al Green's going to think it's 40 years if he gets censured this early in this 119th Congress. I mean, we're what, going the third month of it, and he loses his seats and his positions over censorship. I guess he's going to pay a price.
Well, he won't be censored; he'll be censured, and he deserves to be. He deserves to be censured. I'll make sure the audience is clear on that. We're not censoring anybody. Free speech is welcome, but the violating the rules and decorum of this house rules are not acceptable. And they all did it. They all behaved like fools last night. But let me get over to Todd McKinley in East Tennessee. Todd, you're looking pretty dapper this evening. I know our listeners can't see you unless they're watching it on the social medias, but looking pretty sharp there tonight. Is that one of your White House communication vests you got on there?
Oh no, you're muted, Todd. Oh well, Todd's fixing his microphone.
There he is.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry, I had my microphone muted. I forgot that I had to push the little button down here. I was like, wait a minute, how am I muted? Yeah, so yes, the White House Military Office, little headquarters, little thing there. So, for 6.5 years at the White House Communications Agency, which falls under the White House Military Office. Just love the White House, especially now that you got Donald J. Trump back in there. So love the idea of wearing the gear, wearing the paraphernalia, whatever you want to call it, man, and just sporting the gear.
Well, I love the White House too. Now that doesn't have the dingy stain of adult diapers all over it. Dingy stain of adult diapers.
I love it. I remember there was a time I took offense to saying stuff like that, but I think 4 years of Joe Biden, he's earned it.
That was an appropriate comment right there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing now. Before I used to be like, oh man, we should be talking that way. It's U.S. president, it's disgraceful. Now I'm like, oh no, he earned that.
Yeah, he earned
it. Yeah, he's wearing it too.
What did you think of the little bingo paddles? So what was that?
That's what I was going to mention, John, but I didn't want to be a bad lead host tonight and not get around to you, Todd. Okay, first off, Musk steals. Okay. Elon Musk doesn't touch $1 of the federal budget. He identifies money that's being spent irregularly and notifies the department who's responsible for it. The cuts are being taken place by the separate elements of the executive branch under the direction of the secretaries who are currently there or the acting person where someone has been confirmed by the Senate. This propaganda nonsense needs to stop. It needs to stop. So, yeah, I had a real problem with that. By the way, Elon Musk, in 1 year, 2 years ago, paid $13 billion in personal income tax after selling Tesla stock. No human being in the history of this republic has paid that much total personal income tax in their entire lives, not even Bill Gates. He has paid $13 billion in 1 year. And to see the likes of Pocahontas, by the way, I love Trump calling her Pocahontas. That was fantastic. She sat down and shut her yap up when that happened. But yeah, the paddles are ridiculous. They look like a bunch of buffoons. Just the same day or the day before in the Serbian parliament, over obviously in Serbia, but in Belgrade, the opposition threw smoke grenades in the parliament, and one of the legislators had a stroke and had to be wheeled out. I was waiting to see what these fools would do. By the way, Todd, look, I was always a fan of Al Green. I thought his music was fantastic.
Yeah.
After that nonsense last night, I'm going to have to change my musical selection.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny as I had a school board meeting on Monday. I met a guy named Al Green, white guy. He's like, yeah, I know. I make great music. I'm like, I don't think you're the right guy.
Well, this guy did not make great music last night there, John. I mean, look, what a buffoon. He looked like a out of shape pimp with that cane. We know Al Green. He is a race hustler from days gone by and is still there. This is one of the most divisive, vile human beings sitting in the House of Representatives.
He is. He is absolutely. He never stops with it, you know.
That caught John off guard there. He is.
Yeah, I was looking for something here. There was a congressman just passed away, and
I'm going to cover that. I'll do that right now since you brought it up. That would be Sylvester Turner, which ironically he's filling the seat that was occupied by Sheila Jackson Lee, who died in office in July of 2024. He was at the event last night. He's 70 years old. He had bone cancer diagnosed back in 2022. Last night he was there, and he brought a guest, Angela Hernandez, and he died after the president's speech last night. I don't know if he died when he got home or what happened, but he just died. Fair winds and smooth sailing to former Congressman, Representative Sylvester Turner, former mayor of Houston, who passed away last night at the age of 70, ostensibly from bone cancer. That's unfortunate. We don't wish that on anybody. Yeah. Even though I would give him a free pass as being one of the Democrats who couldn't stand last night if he's in that bad of shape. But he did his duty till the end. I mean, you got to give him credit. That sounds very much not like a Democrat.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he was there, you know, and sadly, you know, he did pass away from bone cancer. We don't wish that on anybody. You already said that, you know, but here's the thing. who's next? Who's going to get the appointment? Who's going to be in the seat filling it next? I mean, Sheila Jackson Lee, you knew what she was her entire career. She was a lefty loon, but you knew what you were getting. You know what I'm saying? What are we going to get to replace this?
Oh, anything was better than her.
Oh, of course. But what are we going to get to replace this gentleman,
I don't know Texas law when it comes to replacing people. Some states, the governor appoints senators who are, leave office or represent. Then you have to have an election within a period of time. So I'm not sure what Texas law is, but I doubt that it will shift to a red seat. It's going to stay blue.
No. It's deep in the blue part of Houston right there. It's not going to change for sure.
Yeah, so that's sad news. I mean, but it's pretty crazy. I mean, you go to, I guess Trump had an effect on people. Somebody died last night. Good Lord, that's
Oh, yeah. When does he get blamed for it though? When
I'm sure they will blame Trump for it. The shock and all of it.
Yeah.
But
it was such a long speech that he put everybody to death. I don't know.
It was such a long speech that my audience had no idea that we were an hour and 20 minutes into it when I mentioned. They're like, "What? What?"
Yeah, right.
Because people were glued to it. They were absorbed by it, and I love the way that Trump just, would turn and look at them because of you people.
Right.
Typical Trump stuff.
Right.
That's
and
funny.
he would look off the other way, off to the Republicans, whenever he knew he was going to get a big standing ovation. So I loved it.
It was great the way he said, I could quite possibly cure the worst disease on the face of the earth, and I'd never get credit from these people.
Look, I'm getting very tired of the Trumpster and Fox News stealing my lines. I've been saying that for years since he was in first time. I said Trump could cure cancer and put people on Mars and find palladium that made us all trillionaires, and the guy would still be vilified by those people. They have no sense of decorum. The behavior of the Democrats last night, this is a wildly unpopular party. They're headed for the teens in popularity. I mean, seriously, even Democrats are banning these people. Black voters are leaving them in droves. It's not just the election. It's gotten worse since then. Their demonic obsession. They voted in the Senate to vote down protecting women in sports. This is absolutely insane, trying to enshrine it in law, not just an executive order. I mean, the Title IX was something that Democrats championed.
Yeah.
After they finished quit being racist and blocking civil rights legislation in the 1960s, then they suddenly championed it. But they championed Title IX back in 1972, which protected women and girls sports, which made opportunities available for young women, and arguably made us a much better country. Women are more confident. They're more assertive. They're more productive. They're more efficient. They participate to get opportunities to get scholarships to go to college because of sports, and where they get a chance to be leaders, and they move into industry and science. I mean, look at STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. STEM graduates, 60% of STEM graduates are women and have been that way for 25 years. And this is in part a consequence of uplifting women through Title IX. And what do these lunatics want? They want biological boys to be playing girls' sports. And we already saw that woman who's been brain damaged playing volleyball. And we saw what happened out in American Samoa when they put a biological boy on a team of 14-year-old girls playing rugby. He seriously injured 3 girls. 2 had to be carried out on stretchers in the first 60 seconds of a rugby game when they did that a couple years ago. This is insane. This is the Democrats in the 21st century, Todd. They're anti-white, they're anti-Christian, they're anti-women, they're anti-everything. They are Homo sapien phobic. That's what they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because years ago, I mean, long before this DEI thing became a thing, they were starting to mix men into mixed martial arts with women, and women were complaining. So they're killing us. They're literally killing us.
Yeah.
They were hurting women left and right in the ring, and now Biden and company wanted to make it mainstream stuff.
Well, I say we pour it back on these lunatics who've been trying this nonsense for years about science denialism. They're the science deniers. They're the ones that make this stuff up. It was a UK climatologist who faked decades of climate data so that they could, deceive everybody about what's actually going on in the world. And then we've got these people who deny biology. X and X equals a young lady, and X and Y equals a dude. You can't change that at the chromosome level. You can change the physical appearance, and you can feel what you want to feel, but we also have psychological counseling for people who don't feel well. So, I mean, these people are pure science deniers. I'm getting an echo from somewhere.
I was kind of picking up on that a little bit.
That was fine a moment ago.
Don't know where.
Todd started playing with his keyboard, and it started doing something funny there. But anyway, listen, we need to put this back on the leftists, the ones who've been screaming science denialism and all this other nonsense. These clowns are ridiculous. They make a claim about one thing, and then the complete opposite. They blame Trump for the same thing. You can't be responsible for this and that when they're completely opposite. It's ridiculous. I mean, John, this is crazy. Let me ask you, John. Last night, what was the thing that stood out the most for you?
Well, I think that was it about him curing cancer, but it was just everything he was talking about. He was just right on the spot. You know, he's talking about all of his executive orders and the Ryland-Laken Act, reduction of taxes. I mean, these are things we're all familiar with because we've been listening the last 45 days what he's been doing. But he was covering a lot of things. That's what he was doing, and I think recognition, the way he gave recognition to Riley Lakin's family, and it was really kind of touching the way he did it. You know what I mean? He says, so we're citing this executive order. We made the terrorist or cartels, drug cartels out of South America now are going to be recognized as terrorists. The same thing with ISIS. And we're going to protect families in the United States of America. And with this executive order, or with this bill, Kylie Lakin will go down in history. Our sweetheart will not be forgotten. It was really touching how he said it. You know, I'm doing him no justice.
Yeah, well, first off, it's Riley Lakin. You're
Yes,
butchering the young lady's
Sorry.
name. I think
Yeah.
no, it's okay. Not to correct you, but yeah, Riley Lakin. No, it was interesting to see all of the human aspects that Trump brought to it. I mean, my audience was in tears last night. I choked up several times. It was really moving, the whole thing, and to see the nonsense. I mean, the Atlantic, of course, which is just nothing but a piece of toilet paper disguised as a magazine. The Atlantic talking about, or was it the New Yorker? Maybe it was the New Yorker. They're both toilet paper. Just one is fluffy toilet paper. The other is not so fluffy, 2-ply. But disguised as the New Yorker said that it was nothing but bunk. Todd, did you find last night's speech to be nothing but bunk?
No, I thought it was more level-headed, you know. And whenever he first started out, I thought, okay, he's going to just do a political speech, and I was like, okay, he toned it down. He became level-headed. He was calm. He was about policies, about issues that we're facing as a nation. To me, it was a left and right. You know, some of it was right. You know, right wing would stand up and cheer. Some of it was, hey, this is the middle of America he's talking about here. Everyday Americans are going to stand up and support this. 70, 80, 90% of Americans have supported most of the stuff he talked about. And here the Democrats just sat there. That stood out to me the entire night, that they just sat on their hands. And to a little kid who survived childhood cancer, who's still trying to survive, they sat on their hands and didn't even bother to stand up and even recognize that little kid. I mean, that tells me all I need to know about Democrats.
Well, it tells you they're classless. They're classless. They have no class. No, that's exactly who they are, and that's how they've behaved. And during the time that Biden was in office, they behaved like petulant children the whole time, and they got away with it. And the country was nearly destroyed. We were on the verge of collapse. And now they file lawsuits to stop the government from spending money to build dams in Uganda. How is that the taxpayers' responsibility? And I see some moron on social media here saying any U.S. military member who backs Trump's ban on weapons to Ukraine has violated their oath. I'm sorry, I don't recall taking an oath to the Republic of Ukraine. Did you, Todd?
I did
my
not.
oath was to the U.S. Constitution, not even to the president, but
Not
to
even.
the Constitution.
Yep,
Yeah, it's just-
exactly. You know, president was duly elected, and under the Constitution, he can cut off aid wherever the heck he wants to. The way I look at it, unless there was true legislation passed by the Congress to support something or to fund something, he has every right to defund something. That's the way I look at it. I mean, or at least hold it up and have a review process. I know there's review processes in every department. The Department of Defense is an example. We have processes to be able to review this stuff.
Yeah.
Hold it up. No judge can tell you otherwise. I'm sorry.
Well, I broadcast that last night, as it typically do, like for South African president when they give speeches, I give snarky comments on those. But last night I broadcasted, and a large international audience tuned in. Thousands watched my program last night, and overwhelmingly, people who might have been on the fence about Trump or believe the propaganda they've been seeing about him overseas were just like, "What? That's not who they tell me he is." And a lot of people who liked him, just the respect for him just soared last night. Last night's speech, contrary to what the leftist media are claiming, was a win-win-win for Donald Trump. And I think he won with a global audience. I think he also won with a domestic audience of those who are from ethnic minorities who see this guy really cares. It's not showboating, John. It's not window dressing. It's not eye candy. The guy is genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing too. Like you just said that the world is in support of Trump. They're loving the guy for what he's doing. Well, yeah, he's raising tariffs, and yeah, nobody's turning away from him on it. You know, nobody's saying he's doing this to us, except for Canada. Maybe Canada's whining and crying and saying they're going to retaliate. But what exactly does Canada produce that's so great that we can't live without?
Well, the problem with Canada that is a genuine issue here, and let's be clear about it, is that we get a fair amount of electricity generated in Canada for the Midwestern states in particular. But beyond the electricity, we also get a lot of our automobiles because their taxes are so low compared to ours. Our federal tax on goods used to be 35 or income 35% for corporations. Trump lowered it to 21%, which made us more competitive. But when it was 35%, all of our car industry moved from Detroit across the lakes to Ontario, much of it. And so instead of producing it in Michigan, this is why Michigan is in the crapper. All our jobs, and no one's talking about this, the jobs went to Canada right across the other side of the border because we had no tariffs between the two. And the national tax in Canada is 12%. The provinces have their own taxes on there, but if corporate tax, but it's 12%. And so like in Ontario, I think they have a 4%. So that makes it 16. So you pay 16% income tax on a Canadian dollar that's linked to the US dollar to sell your goods 10 miles away in the US with no duty to ship it in there. Win, win, win. We've been getting screwed for decades by Canada because of their tax rate. There's no reciprocity there. I'm not saying they don't have a right to have lower taxes, but as I said, there should be 0% federal corporate tax. I would, if I was president, there would be no corporate tax. But by the way, last night, did you guys catch the part where Trump said he wants to put in the budget for the tax bill that you can deduct the interest on your car loan only if you buy an American car?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing that means since Chryslers are made in Canada, since Fords are made in Canada, since General Motors products are made in Canada and Mexico, I'll have to buy a BMW built in Alabama or a Honda built in Marysville, Ohio.
Right. Yeah. A foreign-owned company. That's that's kind of funny though.
Well, but at least they moved it here. Dirk, I can't pronounce his name. Dirk here on I think on Chris's channel, no, on X. Said we get maple syrup out of Canada. He threw up some laughy faces. I was going to say I'm glad to see the laughy face because I live right next door to Vermont. I'm in New Hampshire. We get all the maple syrup we want. We don't have to go across the border for it.
The world's two largest producers are Canada and the United States. So we've got plenty of maple syrup. And if look, as an apiist, and no, it's nothing to do with simians or gorillas. An apiist is a beekeeper. As an apiist, I would say that if you don't want to buy Canadian maple syrup, buy American produced honey. It's much better anyway.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure why he commented Tesla, but
American made car. He's talking about American.
Yeah, Texas. Yeah. But it's kind of humorous. The left is trying to boycott Tesla now, as well as other large corporate entities that support their DEI agenda. They're trying to boycott them, like Amazon and you name it. They're trying to boycott them. This Friday, they're boycotting Amazon for just for the day. And it's like, okay, so you're going to do your shopping on Thursday or Saturday? Which is it? I mean, at the end of their quarter, they're still going to rake in the money.
I may shop at Amazon once a month, maybe once, and that's about it. So, okay, so I'm going to boycott one day. I'm doing my shopping one day a week or one day a month anyway. So what's the problem here?
So gentlemen, here's the phenomenon that I haven't heard a single analyst ever say. Maybe someone has. So this is an original thought on my part. So I'm just putting it out there. It is strange to see the political left who have claimed the mantle of intellectualism for decades when they reveal themselves as nothing more than emotion impulse driven clowns who cannot string together an intellectual argument and cannot make a case. And that's exactly the situation, whether it's here or South Africa, Germany, UK. All these leftists are making arguments that make no sense whatsoever. In South Africa, they're claiming that foreign aid is imperialistic and it's wrong. And then when the United States cuts the aid, in the same conversation, the United States gets blamed for deaths of people dying from HIV in South Africa, and it's U.S.'s fault. Well, how could it be both? How can we be imperialistic by giving you money and then be evil by taking it away? This is the argument of the left. And the same thing is happening here in the States. These people are filing lawsuits to keep paying money to people in Africa and Asia who are not Americans, while people live in North Carolina in tents 5 months after a hurricane, and in Hawaii, they still don't have homes 2 years after a massive fire out there. And not to mention LA and the people in Florida for hurricanes. All these people are suffering. They're Americans. We have a duty and responsibility to America first, not the world. This is not one world government, and it will not be one world government in my lifetime, because if you try to make that, that's when the revolution comes, Todd.
Yeah, well, it should. But, I hear all these people talk all the time, and I always say this, Second Amendment's case our government becomes tyrannical. And under Obama, then, of course, under the last administration, Biden, it's like it was right on the cusp of being to that point where what's the excuse at this point? You know what I mean? Yeah, you're absolutely right. If they become tyrannical, I'll be there without a doubt for sure, because they're going to come knocking on my door regardless.
So I need to raise this topic too from last night, gents. There's a few ladies in our social media viewing audience and the different platforms right now. I've seen a few names out there I recognize. Wasn't it the height of irony to watch the Democrats wearing pink last night to ostensibly represent women's rights? First off, it's very stereotypical to think that only women are into pink. I like pink and purple. Just make that clear. And I'm comfortable with my sexuality, in case you're curious. But anyway, but seriously,
we figured it out with Abba.
That's right. But seriously, they're wearing pink last night after members of the Democratic Party in the Senate submarined protecting Title IX to protect women and girls sports. It's just the hypocrisy is beyond belief. And they didn't even get the irony of it. They're just fake. It's like when Nancy Pelosi and the other Democrats dressed up in kente cloth because someone told them it's a black thing. It's a black thing. So they put it on, not even know what kente cloth is. Don't know that it comes originally from Kumasi, and the people there who weave it are men, and that you don't wear it the way they wore it. They're just window dressing clowns. They're not intellectuals. They're not bright. They're not smart. As I've said for year after year after year, in the House and Senate, most of those people are just ambulance chasing shyster lawyers or used car salesmen or somebody that's just slightly better than their opponent, better looking, and has a gift of gab. Only a handful of people that represent us in Congress, Senate, and House are actually patriotic, informed, conscientious, dedicated representatives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go to any town hall with a member of the state House of Representatives and sit there and actually listen to some of the questions that they dodge and duck. I mean, they don't even know some of the basics of the stuff that they just voted on legislation. This goes for Republicans too. And they'll tell you how good something is because it's the talking points. But if you ask them to get into it, all of a sudden they want to shut you down, or their staff has to step in and try to cut you off. But Republicans and Democrats do that.
Todd, in the words of the immortal Nancy ripoff Visa company, I mean, Nancy Pelosi, in the words of the immortal Nancy Pelosi, vote for the bill, then we can read what's in it.
Right. Yeah, we can see what's in it.
We had to vote for it to see what was in it. I remember that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what they do. I mean, look,
wasn't she supposed to be a legislator? Aren't they supposed to write the bills? I thought they were writing the bills.
K Street lobbyists write all these bills. Almost no members of Congress are even functionally illiterate, apparently.
No.
I was thinking Obama delivered it himself.
No,
I thought maybe they were writing it over the course of years, knowing Obama was going to be in there. And
yeah, like you said, you got the lobbyists that'll write it. You have these think tanks that'll write it, and it's hundreds of thousands of pages. It's done by committee, so no one person has any real input on everything, and no one's going to read it and digest it. It's just too much. And if your staff does decide to read it, you're going to sit there and spend a couple of all-nighters just to try to figure out what's in it, and then of course to try to digest it for another couple of days. And they pass thousand-page legislation just in a couple hours.
Don't you remember Ron Paul? Of course I voted it down. You know why I voted it down? Because I read the bill.
Because I read it. Yep.
Exactly. I mean, that's anybody in their right mind would have voted that bill down.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, my thoughts, if I go out and sign a contract and I don't read the contract, I'm obligated to whatever's in that contract, right? These people just admitted that they did not read a bill and signed off on a bill that they didn't read. It pretty much stuck us with a program they knew nothing about. That's ridiculousness. I don't know how they get voted back in.
Yeah, well, it's somebody that doesn't read fine print, then complaining about the contract. It's like, read it before you sign it, read it before you vote for it. That's what we should do. Personally, and as members of Congress, they should do the same thing.
What does Pablo want? A parliamentary system.
No, we don't want a parliamentary system.
No, we do not.
Then we'll be like all these countries in Europe whose government falls every time you turn around. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, our government has been a fairly smooth transition. Yeah, we may bluster and run our mouths, but guess what? That's protected under the First Amendment, which is a great thing. I think it's good to be able to talk about legislators like this. And I think about that. How many countries around the world can you not sit on? 3 guys sitting on a radio station, streaming it, whatever you want to call it, and talking about our legislators not being shut down, not being attacked by police, Stasi, or secret police, anything like that. I think this is pretty doggone good to be able to do this. Every 4 years, you have a little tumult every now and then, but it's smooth transition. The next guy, next gal, whatever gets sworn in, and we move on.
Well, I'll tell you places you can't do it. You can't do it in Russia. You can't do it in Germany. You can't do it in the UK. You can't do it in Canada because all those places, they'll knock on the door and arrest you. But folks, they won't do that here in these United States of America, where you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives on our 200th episode. Can you believe it? All that means is we're old. 200 episodes have been around for a while. Yeah, exactly. On WSMN 1590 on your AM dial, 95.3 on the FM dial. And you can catch us, as Todd loves to say, on the interwebs out there all over the internet. On Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. I don't think we're on Twitch, but maybe we'll be one day. Twitch is something I do every time I hear Nancy Pelosi open her mouth. It's just
Right.
Getting
But,
old,
well,
huh? I like to
But
tell people I'm still in my prime here. Okay, I can beat out any 25-year-old on anything but a video game.
100-meter dash.
Okay, well, maybe that too.
Okay.
I can beat him on a 100-meter dash. I just got to fire up the pickup truck. Come on.
In the interest of full disclosure, John cannot win the 100-meter dash. Neither can I. Two years ago,
No.
maybe, but not today.
Now
Guys,
this belly.
well, it's not just the belly, it's the hip, it's the knees, it's everything at some point.
Yeah.
But seriously, last night, a lot of people, and I didn't get to hear any of the commentary about the speech today because I was wrapped up inside a undisclosed building, a classified location somewhere in the heart of Pennsylvania, doing work for the Department of Defense. And no, it's not nuclear bombs, so you can tell ISIS to relax. I'm not pulling the codes. But seriously, I was tied up all day, so I didn't hear the commentary on this. But I saw that whole speech, and at the end of the speech, because the camera had been focused for a long time on Trump and the Republicans, it finally shifted back to Democrats, and I saw that fully 40% of them had gotten up and left in the latter stages of the speech. Talk about no respect, no decorum. Remember when, what's the guy, Wilson, the Republican, got up and screamed when Republican, you lied, and they all lost their minds. You're going to kick him out of Congress. Well, why don't we just put Al Green in jail if that's the level of stupidity they're going to go after? I mean, last night was the worst display of juvenile behavior we've ever seen, probably since the Civil War in the House of Representatives and Congress.
Right, and somebody was bashed over the head during the Civil War with somebody's cane, right? And almost killed him.
Senator Sumner was nearly murdered.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, back in the old days, 1800s, 19th century, they used to get in fistfights over stuff. It wasn't uncommon for them to break out in fights. We don't do that so much on the House floor now, but people like Abraham Lincoln one time while he was campaigning had to literally throw a chair through a window, make escape from a mob of people that were coming after him.
Well, this is not Prime Minister's questions. This is not the foolishness of the UK, the behavior up there, where they get up and they clap like seals, and they make stupid statement one-liners, the honorable Prime Minister is full of crap. Yeah!
Order! I love that.
Will the honorable gentleman from Cheltenham sit down? No, please, order.
And then whenever the former speaker of the British Parliament there, the House, how he would get a little snide comment in too. I loved whenever he was Prime Minister's questions, whenever he was speaker though. I will say
I always love how they bring like Rishi Sunak and those, they'll bring their folio up full of paperwork and they'll set it down on the dais to give their answer. And they're like, no, I just wanted to say that the gentleman from Scotland is full of crap. And he walks away. And he walks away. He just doesn't even look at it. He brings the full up like he's going to read like figures from it. Steel imports are down and rice is no. He goes, the gentleman from Scotland is full of crap. And he just walks away. No, that was very entertaining. That was along with Doctor Who, that was one of the best programs you ever watched on PBS back in the day, is Prime Minister's Minutes. But anyway, so Sonny Houston, the race hustling slime ball from the dystopian View, apparently today was upset that the Democrats didn't get out and walk out sooner. She's like, they should have all left. John, what do you think? Should the Democrats have got up and left at some point? Was it appropriate?
Well, you know what? If they just didn't show up, it'd have been a lot better for everybody, right?
Well, some didn't show up. It wasn't a full house. It was not a full house. But Sonny Houston said that when Al Green was tossed out, they all should have got up and left. But look, this was all staged.
Yeah,
Al Green, he couldn't even bother to be sitting. He just stood up right away. Stood there to get attention, so that the Speaker of the House would have to sanction him, which is what he did. I would have preferred they just drug him out by his ponytail. That would have been cool.
I thought they were carrying him out at first. The way they were walking out, and there was 2 men in front of them. I thought they were carrying him out, like the old days, run him out on a rail.
Yeah, but that was planned. He was the sacrificial lamb. They probably already spoke to the speaker beforehand, like say, hey, he's going to stand up. He'll be the guy you kick out. Other than that, you don't have to kick anybody else out. They pretty much well behaved after that. They did some shouting every now and then, but did their little signs for the most part after that. Which was even worse, I think.
It was like what we were watching American Idol. They're holding the paddle 6, 5, 7, 4.
Yeah,
all these stupid signs, and they were different. They had so many different paddles. It wasn't like there can't be proper trained seals. They couldn't all go Musk sucks at the same time. They had Musk sucks, taxes, lie, you lied, this, that. It's like we're all like scanning the crowd trying to read what the heck these tiny little signs look like.
Yeah, I saw one of them. It says protect our veterans and stuff like that. I'm like, you're the
they
last
don't care
party.
about veterans.
You're the last party to protect veterans. I tell you that.
Yeah, this is the same party that a year ago was proposing in the Washington Post that, remember this, we talked about this, that veterans VA benefits be indexed to their income. In other words, if you were successful, made $250,000 a year, you get no benefits, even though you have no legs as a consequence of military service. And I found this quite reprehensible. My point was that you have to understand that veterans benefits disability isn't because you can't work. That's what they're crying about. Like, well, people with Social Security, disability, SSI, they don't get enough to live off. Well, that's given to people who never even paid into the system because they're unable to work. Yeah. Veterans get money that's supposed to make them whole again for their missing testicles, for their traumatic brain injury, for the missing arms, missing limbs, their blindness, and whatever else. That's the purpose of a veteran's disability check. It's the government's modest way to try to make you whole again and compensate you for your loss of your quality of life. If you've lost your testicles in an ID explosion, you'll never reproduce. You can't be compensated no matter how much money they give you every month. If you have a traumatic brain injury, which affects your speech and your cognitive ability, you will never be the same again. If you're missing legs, you will never be the athlete you once were. It doesn't mean you can't be an athlete, but you will suffer lifelong disability. It's to make you whole because you did it in service to the nation.
Yeah.
Not because you got caught in an industrial belt grinder at work. That's your employer. That's your lawsuit. We don't get to sue the government because we don't have legs or arms. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So it's a small payment. And Democrats, actively last year in the Congress were looking at trying to find a way to strip us or index our payments. These people are vile human beings. Don't get me wrong. There's some Republicans too, but they're terrible people, John. They really are.
Yeah. No, I agree. I guess that comes from the progressive policies from old days, huh?
No, it comes from just they hate people. They're Homo sapien phobic. That's what they are. They hate people. They're Homo sapien phobic, man. I mean, I want to talk about homophobes. Yeah, they are homophobes. They're the true homophobes. Yeah. They're the true homophobes. I've also just coined that phrase tonight too. I've never heard that anywhere else either. They're Homo sapien phobic. So when people come back years later, it was right here on this show tonight, our 200th episode. I coined that phrase, Homo sapien phobics. That's what they are. They are sapien phobics. These people, they hate people. They don't want us to use the planet. Oh, no. The snail darter has to have all that land. We have to tear down the dams so you have no electricity, no water, so that the salmon can run. You can't live here. No, you can't live there. You must walk to work. You must do this. You must do that. They hate human beings. They hate progress, which is ironic because they like to call themselves progressive.
Yeah. But it's funny is the policies that they want to push would make a less quality of life for most Americans. But you look at how they live. Look at the lap of luxury that they get that they're afforded, and look at where most of it. Yeah, I
take exception to your comment as a member of the House of Representatives from Queens. I only make $174,000 a year. It's not enough to pay for the screens for my OnlyFans channel. I'm sorry. That's AOC. Yeah, she $174,000 a year, and she can't get by on that.
And didn't bother showing up, even for her constituents, even just to walk out to set a. For her to do something for her constituents. I walked out of there last night. She didn't even bother showing up. She live tweeted the whole thing. I that's what I hear. I didn't see it, didn't look at it, don't care. But yeah, didn't bother showing up.
The least she could have done for all of us Republicans who are just salivating at the chance to date her is worn a tight dress and give us a little badunkadunk as she walked out of the room from behind. I think that all the Republicans who are desperate in love with AOC would have really appreciated that last night. So I think a lot of hearts were broken last night in Republican circles around the country, particularly 20-something Republicans who are all they're just so into AOC, because everybody wants to date her.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All Republicans just can't get enough of her and her fake crying, standing next to fences. I mean, she should have won an Oscar that year, for crying out loud. I mean, would they give Oscars out for nonsense these days, right? Why not give one to her? A lifetime achievement of crying next to fences.
Political Oscars.
Yeah.
So there is a word for having a phobia of other people. Anthropophobia. Fear of people causes symptoms. So there is an actual thing as fear of other people.
Yes, but it isn't as catchy. It is not as catchy as mine. Yes, I'm aware of that phobia, but it's not as catchy as mine.
I've never heard of it. I don't even stop to think that somebody might have a fear of other people. I mean, people have a fear like a common fear of, I don't want to get shanked in the street or something, but I mean,
no.
There's fear of other people.
There's people with severe phobia like that who are, are introverts and avoid society.
There was a autistic gentleman many years, I think in the 70s, who disappeared in Maine, and they had discovered him because he's around camps and stuff around a lake, and he was just living out there in the wilderness all by himself, and he'd be going to the camps during the winters and stuff, and maybe rogue clothing or food items, but he was living out there. It would be minus 26 degrees, and he was living out there in the wilderness by himself. And what it was is he did not like being around people. Then they locked him up and put him around people.
Well, I'd like to lock some people up who testified in Congress today, and I'd like to see much harder grilling. I didn't get a chance to see all the clips, but Michelle Wu, who apparently is Catholic, she had ash on her forehead. I didn't know she was Catholic, Michelle Wu. And Brandon Johnson from Chicago, and then the Denver mayor. All these clowns testified about why they're violating the supremacy clause of the Constitution, not cooperating with federal authorities. It's really disturbing what these people do, but I'd love to see those guys actually get locked up. But hey, so two-time failed Democratic gubernatorial candidate, election denier, Stacey Abrams. Yeah, I know Todd knew where I was going with that. Stacey Abrams was on television today defending Al Green, saying he did his job. Last time I saw the description for member of House of Representatives, it wasn't to dress like a pimp and stand like a jerk and disrupt the Congress and interfere with the speech. That's not the job description of a member of the House of Representatives. I mean, maybe I missed what it was, Todd.
No, absolutely. And of course, to stand up and try to say something like, even though she got called out by name in the speech by Trump, which was kind of cool, and all the money she was taking illegally, let's investigate her. Let's have a special counsel look at her and all the other money that's going to people like that, especially in our own country, that we can actually go find and seize those assets, for crying out loud. Go after her.
Well, in fact, she just spews utter nonsense. Again, as I said earlier on, Musk doesn't have the authority that these people claim because they're trying to hoodwink America, but it's failing. So Stacey Abrams, the twice failed gubernatorial candidate and money grubbing and lying election denier from Georgia, said, we have to call out Donald Trump on his lies. Which lies would those be? We have to point out that an unelected oligarch is doing his best to steal America from its people in Elon Musk. No. And we have a complicit Congress that is allowing him to fire thousands of people that should be delivering services to Americans. And he's now starting trade wars to cover for the fact he's failed to deliver on his day one promises. Actually, Donald Trump has delivered on all of his promises and then some on day one. Many things we didn't even know were promises, like naming wildlife refuges after a raped and murdered 12-year-old girl by an illegal alien down there in Texas. You know, Trump is delivering. It's delivering. And as far as Congress being complicit, well, Congress doesn't do anything. I don't know how it's complicit here. And so I don't think they're complicit in anything. They just don't get things done. But Stacey Abrams, I wish she would just go away. She's such a loser.
If Congress is complicit, they're complicit in all the money that should be in our coffers being misspent, hundreds of millions to billions and trillions of dollars over the course of many years. That's been basically wasted, fraud, wasted, abuse. That's where they're complicit in allowing that to happen. They're criminals, in my estimation.
Well, and as far as firing thousands of people delivering services to America, that's the issue. Thousands of people aren't even working. They're on a payroll. They're sitting at home collecting a check and doing nothing. And when asked to do the simplest of tasks, which as a private or as a lieutenant, we've done that ourselves. Our boss says, tell me what you did this week. You know, send me a note, give me an email.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And instead of just doing what they were asked to do, they cry like babies. Oh, who is he? I got the email on Saturday. I'm just so traumatized that I was asked to explain what I did last week. Maybe because you didn't do anything last week and you can't justify your $138,000 a year job off the taxpayer's teat. That's spelled T-E-A-T for those who think that might have been a bad word. Taxpayers' teat. Just to let you know that. But
so we got to explain. It's like when you got to explain a joke, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, as a former dairy farmer, I like to make that distinction. I say that I use that word daily as we clean the teats. Anyway, but the point here is that this is just nonsense. And firing thousands of people delivering services to America. I don't think anybody delivering PEPFAR services in Uganda or in Zambia or South Africa or in Thailand is delivering any service whatsoever for the American taxpayer. So Stacey Abrams is just a talking mouthpiece who is not even appealing in any sense whatsoever. She's an election denier, just like all the leftists who are science deniers. They're election deniers. It's insane. But here's the best part about all this, guys. We've talked about this since November 5th. Popular vote, electoral college landslide, and 78% or more of the counties in the entire country went for Trump. They can deny it all they want. They can claim he doesn't have a mandate. He won every single battleground state. He won 2,500 counties versus 500 or something like that. Unbelievable. It was a total whitewash, a total shellacking. And if you took California out of the picture, it is an immense landslide. But because California has so many voters, it skews the outcome with its 54 electoral votes and its numbers in the 4 million vote difference for Democrats. You take that out, Trump not only wins, he steamrolls. This woman is wildly unpopular. Yet they're still trying to prop her up. You see her every time you turn, she just got an Oscar for lifetime achievement. For what? or no, it wasn't Oscar, it was a BET award. She
Yeah,
got a
BET award. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
Black
but-
Entertainment Television.
And they're trying to prop her up to run for governor next go around too. By the way, so
Well,
that's,
good. The
that's
California deserves her. I hope they have fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. The last former vice president to run for governor there in '62 lost, by the way, Richard Nixon, who went on to become president. Let's hope she wins governor of California and they keep her. All right.
Well, the problem with Kamala Harris is she's already had her checkers moment 1,000 times over.
Right. Yep.
You
Checker
see,
speech. Yep.
To do the things that we do is important to do them, because if we do them, then we done them, because to do it is to do. You know what I'm talking about, Todd. When you do something, it's stop. Good God.
Richard Nixon's checkers speech, and you're comparing to her to that. I don't think so.
Oh gosh.
Richard Nixon was able to stay on the ticket that year, remember?
Make it stop. Gosh. Actually, no, it's
he's in his head.
It's incredibly entertaining. Every time look, comedy is boring anymore because everything is you can't say anything. You can't. So comedy's become dead. You can't offend anybody because then you'll be canceled. So
Right.
comedians, except for what's his name there, the pothead there, everybody loves, except for him. Nobody did.
Yeah. Joe Rogan, right?
No, not Joe Rogan. No, what's his name there? The guy. Oh gosh. Anyway, I can't think of his name right now.
You always got what's his name with Peanut and Jeff
No.
Dunham. I mean, he's
Yeah.
always funny, but he's
Well, there's a few comedians that have stuck around over the past several years, but they weren't.
Most of them have. Most of the comedy is not like it was in the 80s and 90s where it was hilarious.
no.
edgy. It was edgy.
It was
yeah,
edgy.
funny.
You could. Richard Pryor would be canceled in a heartbeat today.
Oh, yeah.
So would George Carlin, and he was pretty tame.
No, it had gone downhill about 15, 20 years ago. I used to make comments that comedians were the only ones that could get away with making racist jokes, and
Yeah,
everybody laughed,
right.
including the race they were making fun of.
Look
But
at Chris Rock could use the N-word every third. You can't do that anymore. Look, comedy is dead, with a few exceptions. However, we have comedic politicians like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Watching them it's hilarious. And the thing is that we get this because the late night talk shows are all dead too. There's nothing funny on any of these shows. It's just attack Republicans, attack white people, attack Christians, and attack Donald Trump. And there's no humor in it. At least back in the day when Chevy Chase pretended to be pretended to be Gerald Ford, I didn't find it funny, but people thought that was funny. But at least it had something to it. But there's nothing to this. Or when Dana Carvey, in a lighthearted manner, did George Bush.
Right.
That was really good.
Really funny, and of course George H.W. brought him to the White House to actually do that, his invitation, and he did.
That was funny stuff. It was actually funny. He was making a little fun of the president, but it was respectful, and it was like there was no quid pro quo. There was no deal with the Iranians. I just want to be clear about that. It was great stuff, man. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
And even the guy who played Clinton back there, Daryl, whatever his name is on there, he was pretty good at it too.
Daryl Hammond, he was hilarious. Yeah,
he was pretty fun in there too. But no, look, the comedy is dead, so we need these comedic moments from these idiotic politicians who just expose themselves. But every time she comes on camera, man, it's like, get the popcorn out. This is going to be 20 minutes of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Seuss. It's like a bad episode of Dr. Seuss, man. Green eggs and ham. I am. What? What did he say?
Yeah, I like a few of the instances where they panned over to say Nancy Pelosi. You have her sitting there clutching that cane, just how the mighty has fallen. I just want her to go out on a rail, and just fail miserably. I want her assets to be seized. But it's never going to happen. But just to see her sitting there with that scowl on her face, knowing she's never going to be in power ever again, and just like, you're done. We're done with people like you. And let's move on.
Well, I'd like to start a geriatric home for useless members of Congress. We'll put Mitch McConnell. We'll put Chucky Schumer, the Crypt Keeper. We'll put her in there. Al Green can join them. He's also up there in years. Look, all these people are just out of touch with society completely. McConnell, I mean, what the guy is not. It's like his neurons don't fire. He stands there and he just freezes. He just doesn't know what's going on. Anyway, that's what's been going on with the speech last night. I have to say that the best moment for me that I got the biggest kick out of is when Elizabeth Warren tried to run her mouth.
He shut her down. Yeah.
Turned his head on a swivel and said, basically, shut up, Pocahontas. That was great. That was great. Stolen valor there, Pocahontas. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren. Look, the day for these frauds is coming to an end. The Democrats are, and here, by the way, I'm not complaining, Todd, John, about their behavior last night. I'm actually okay with it. Do you know why I'm okay with it? Because they're imploding. If they actually got their act together and behave like adults, there's a lot of things to complain about Trump right now. I'm not complaining about it, but there's a lot of reasons to complain about what's going on with Trump if you're a level-headed person. If the Democrats had a Victor Davis Hanson, Trump might be suffering a little bit of trouble in the polls right now because Victor Davis Hanson, if you were a Democrat, would say, well, the problem with canceling the payments to USAID is that Congress has approved that budget. The previous president signed it, which makes it a matter of public law. Therefore, you must expend that money unless you find criminal activity going on. And he hasn't identified criminal activity. So that money must be spent until the end of the fiscal year. That's a legitimate argument. That should be the court case. Maybe they're listening to the show, the leftists. But that's the case you take against Trump. Not this nonsense is going on.
I would argue that DOJ is finding criminal activity. Didn't they find USAID and the misappropriation of funds and how funds is being funneled back into...
John, that may very well be the case, but money spent on a dam project or for HIV in Africa isn't necessarily corrupt, and they haven't proven that it is. So my argument is that, I would have done this differently. I appreciate where Trump is going, but I would have said, let's give a budget and submit the budget, which is about $3 trillion less. And I'm like, well, where did the $3 trillion go? Well, we cut this out, we cut this out, we cut this out starting October 1st. That's what I would have done. Of course, they wouldn't have approved that budget. But my point is that there are legitimate things to complain about. Look, and we said we'd hold the Trump administration accountable. We said we'd hold them accountable. So the problem is the Democrats are too busy crying and whining about nonsensical things. And so good. Keep it up. Keep it up.
They can't get past the fact their feelings are hurt.
Exactly. because they got to act like children and drunken sailors for the last 4 years, wasting our money and burying us in debt and censoring us every time we Senator Schumer. Boom, censorship. Well, you can't talk. Your YouTube account is gone. Your Twitter account is shut down. Your Facebook, you're banned for life. I mean, this is unbelievable. I want Pam Bondi to get off her backside and file criminal charges, or at least grand juries being paneled against all these people. And I don't want to hear any nonsense about we can't go after them.
So we're only 45 days in. Give it a moment. I mean, we might have some liberal judges out there. We might try to weed out and some things that need to be taken care of first, put things in line. So when we do go to prosecute, we can actually prosecute.
Yeah. And I know they are looking at a few things with regards to doing special prosecutors. Yeah. So I know that they're looking at that internally. I heard that today. So I don't know where that's at, but we'll see between the FBI and DOJ if they're going to impanel special prosecutors. I think that's in the works.
Well, I hope so, because there are people in the federal bureaucracy who actively use third-party tech companies as agents of the federal government to violate the First Amendment, the Constitution, and I will stand up in a class action lawsuit as a victim of government censorship right here, government-directed censorship. These clowns need to go to jail, and they need to know what they need to suffer some pain. They need to pay big fines. They need to be wearing jumpsuits. They need to be convicted felons because they have violated our Constitution, and it shall not be tolerated. The days of racist leftists like Franklin Delano Roosevelt imprisoning Japanese Americans because they didn't look the same as him and he didn't trust them, destroying their lives, are over. The days of racist Democrats forcing Native Americans on the Trail of Tears from the southeastern United States, the Seminole, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, and driving them to Oklahoma, stealing their lands, those days are over. The days of racist Southern Democrats forming the Ku Klux Klan to hunt down and murder and lynch Black Americans and those fighting for civil rights are over. The Democrats, your day is past, your day is gone. Your behavior today simply reinforced the fact that you're not a serious party. You're a party of miscontents. You're a party of malcontents. You're a party of racists, bigots, and Homo sapien phobes. That's what you are.
That's it.
So what do you think they do if they decide to prosecute? Do you think they're actually going to go to jail or flee to a communist country in South America?
I don't know that they'll flee.
Look, I don't think they have to go all the way to South America. They want a communist country. Ontario is just across the border. It's right here.
Oh,
it's right here. It's right here. Go there.
Let's go left. Go north. Just go north to the Great White North. It's fantastic. Go to Ottawa. Doug Ford will welcome you with open arms. By the way, Doug Ford, I did catch you before I came on. He appeared. I happened to turn the TV on, and Fox was on there. I don't usually watch it, but on Brett Baer, Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, was on there. And instead of being diplomatic, he has a board behind him that says, "Canada is not for sale." Well, we don't want it. We definitely don't want Ontario. We don't want British Columbia, even though it's gorgeous, but all the loons live out there. I mean, look, PE Island, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, we'll take that, but you can have Quebec. But my point here is that was confrontational, and then he just lied and obfuscated. Would I like to, now Peter Navarro was allowed to go way too long, but
yeah, he did. A little bit.
But I'll give Peter Navarro a pass because this 70 septuagenarian was put in prison for not violating the law. He upheld executive privilege, which is recognized by the Supreme Court, and he was put in prison for it. A 72-year-old man. That's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so I'll give him a free pass on this. But Peter Navarro open the conversation because I'm screaming at the TV, not literally, but I'm screaming at the TV going, it's not about surpluses in your oil. And by the way, none of the oil comes from Ontario, genius. It comes from Alberta. You're not giving us any oil from Ontario. You're just giving us cars, which should be made in Detroit, not in Ontario. But Peter Navarro comes on and says, it's about fentanyl.
Yeah.
This guy, I don't know what this guy's talking about. It's about fentanyl. This is what this is all about. The Canadians aren't policing their border. And that's the bottom line. And that's why Trump did this. And they've made no genuine effort to address this issue. Neither is Mexico. So tariffs are in place.
Yep. That's factual. And fentanyl is and other drugs are a problem there in Canada. It's just the same as they are here for sure.
Well, not to the extent they are here because this is where the market is. And so, of course,
I get that, but they still have their own issues there as well, right?
But the point is that there isn't really a market for fentanyl. Fentanyl is used to cut other drugs. There's a market for heroin and for other drugs. And that's what's, anyway, it's high time that and we know why Trump is hot on this issue. His brother was an alcoholic. His brother Fred, I think it was, who died from his alcoholism. And it's been an issue seeing the effects of addiction, what it does to a family. He saw it throughout his life. And so Trump has always been concerned about addiction and about dependency, chemical dependency. And so in his first term, he tried to do things about it, but there were too many distractions. And now he's taken so seriously that Canada and Mexico are now dealing with 25% tariffs.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, last night we were watching the remarks, and somebody was telling me that he looks different. He looks older. I said, "Well, it's the haircut. He's coming in this time around looking more serious, I think." And it's showing. He's more serious. He's more committed. He's more focused, and it's just paying off for the American people. If the Democrats could get pushed out of the way, it would be a hell of a lot better.
Well, I like that verb to commit, and I would like to commit many members of the House of Representatives to institutions.
Straight jackets. That would be all right.
But I will look as a card carrying Republican. I will confess I was disappointed. I didn't get to see the badunkadunk of my hottie AOC walking out of the chamber, stomping out, swaying hip to hip. We all know, man. That's our ideal woman.
With some Al Green plan, how appropriate would that be?
But yeah, that would have been funny. But the frightening part for me that I don't understand is that how could I possibly be into AOC when she's an ethnic minority, a woman of color? Because I thought Republicans are all racist. How would we? Why would we want to date her?
I got lost at Badunkadon. That girl's so skinny. I swear to God, if she walks in the daylight, she's gonna disappear in the sun.
Oh no! She identifies as having a badunkadon.
She got no badunkadon.
She identifies as having it. Doesn't matter.
It's all sarcasm, brother. Keep up with the conversation.
I know. So, real quick, we got a couple minutes left here before top of the hour, and some people brought up about the PM of Canada and if anybody's been appointed yet.
No.
But what do you think about the idea that the head of state, which is the King of England, may appoint Mark Carney?
I don't see it.
I'm not aware that the head of state can appoint the prime minister. The parliament has to do that in Canada.
Yeah, the head of state can appoint a governor general.
Yes, a governor general,
not
right?
A PM. Yeah,
right.
I thought that the head of state could do. I don't know, but
no.
I know Trudeau was over there.
You're talking about the head of state can ask them to form a government, but that's in the UK, not in Canada. They don't ask them to form a government in Canada.
Right. Yeah, but whatever the case is, little Juicy Trudeau has not resigned yet. He promised to resign, like a wuss that he is. Until he resigns or a vote of no confidence comes up, he's there. So I think he's going to try to run the clock out.
He had froze Parliament, right? There's some kind of rule that he can freeze Parliament, stop Parliament, or put them in probate or whatever it's called, and so they're not having any Parliament right now. They're shut down. Their government's shut down.
I guess I missed that part. Look, I mean, it's wintertime in Canada. Not much happens except polar bears move around from place to place.
They're afraid to go to work in Parliament. They might freeze to death.
And the non-existent Quebec Nordiques don't lose any hockey games because they don't exist. But the Canucks lose. The Montreal Canadiens lose. All the Canadian sides lose to American teams. So that's what happens in wintertime in Canada.
So we managed to prove that here at the Common Sense Conservatives, we know a little bit about, very little or nothing about Canadian government.
We
know quite a bit about Canada's government. You asked a question which I believe I got the right answer, but we're not going to stand on opinion here. We'll figure it out. All right, folks, coming back next hour, talk more about President Trump and last night's festivities.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. A better day on Wall Street after President Trump said automakers would get a one-month reprieve from the tariffs he's imposed on Canada and Mexico. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze.
Nice to talk about a little bit of green on that Dow board versus the red that we've been talking about the past 2 days. And it does tell the story of exactly how closely traders in the stock market are following each and every development on this trade war right now, including that exemption that was issued midday today by the White House.
Cuts coming to the VA. Secretary of Veterans Affairs Doug Collins says the agency is planning to cut 15% of its workforce, some 72,000 government employees, in conjunction with Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Top Trump officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, visiting the southern border, taking an aerial tour, and today visiting an immigration detention facility before holding a border roundtable with local and national participants. This is ABC News. Prosecutors have opened a new criminal investigation into the Tate brothers.
Florida's Attorney General opening a criminal investigation into American brothers Andrew and Tristan Tate, who are charged with human trafficking in Europe. The Florida AG saying, based on a thorough review of the evidence, I've directed the Office of Statewide Prosecution to execute search warrants and issue subpoenas in the now active criminal investigation into the Tate brothers. The two social media influencers with millions of followers were arrested in 2022 and indicted in Romania on charges of luring women to that country for sexual exploitation.
ABC's Rihanna Nally. Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, which make the popular obesity treatments Wegovy and Zepbound, are cutting prices on the drugs for people without insurance. NASA powering down 2 science instruments on its twin Voyager spacecraft to save power. One of the instruments measures charged particles and cosmic rays. The other studies cosmic rays. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Do you enjoy fatty foods, sweets, and alcohol? Who doesn't? Unfortunately, all those things put a lot of pressure on our liver. That's why pharmacist, best-selling author, and nutritional expert Sherry Torkos recommends Active Liver from New Nordic.
The liver is an incredible organ. It works nonstop to process toxins and chemicals from our food and drinks, medications we take, and even environmental exposures. As a health expert, I'm often asked how to support the liver's natural detoxification process and offset the effects of fatty foods, sugar, and alcohol. I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. This gentle plant-based supplement is an effective way to support your liver's vital functions as well as your energy and overall well-being.
With its powerful blend of turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract, Active Liver is the perfect way to keep your liver healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver is available in both a delicious gummy or tablet. You can find Active Liver in the vitamin aisle at your local CVS or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
Spring into adventure now at Campers in RV. The sun is shining, open road is calling, and for a limited time, you can drive off in a new RV for just $5 a day. And to make that deal even sweeter, we're giving you a $500 trade-in allowance plus a $500 off coupon. That's an additional $1,000 in savings. But hurry, these offers won't last. From a front bedroom to bunkhouse, we have the RV floor plans that fit your budget and lifestyle. Don't wait. Visit Campers in RV today or shop now at campersin.com.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
The views
Well, I'd like to go by and meet Roger one day at Gate City Monuments, but Nashua is not on my travel list at the moment there, John. Perhaps I'll get up there someday and get myself one of those massive mausoleum stones and leave myself for posterity.
Well, I happen to know where Gate City Monuments is. So you make it up here. I can escort you on over there, and you can get business done.
All right, sounds like a plan, folks. Gate City Monuments, where you can remember your loved ones. Bring it there. As a little free advertising for Gate City Monuments. I hope they don't mind. I just love that commercial.
Yeah, it's a great voice too, right? It's worded perfectly, and it gets to the point. Who they are, what they're doing. Love it.
It's well done.
Good-
well done
good
advertising campaign
commercial,
there.
yeah, good commercial.
Absolutely. So while we were in break there, something just literally broke. Breaking news. President Trump has granted a month-long exemption for U.S. automakers on the new tariffs. One month exemption so that imports from Mexico and Canada are not hit by the tariffs for the next 30 days. That's huge. Just saw Fox News reporting today breathlessly about how a $80,000 Ford pickup truck will now cost $100,000 because of the tariffs, because the truck is produced in Mexico. Two problems. $80,000 for a pickup truck? I don't think so.
No, thank you.
$80,000 for a truck made in Mexico? I really don't think so.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm gonna go buy a used vehicle if I buy one. Much more affordable. They just broke it in. It's perfect for me. I'm not spending $80,000.
I'm not of the opinion. I don't like OPP. I'm not down with other people's problems. I don't want used. I wouldn't want a used partner. I wouldn't want a used truck. I want new. I want fresh. I want that fresh coat.
$80,000, bro. You ain't getting it.
No.
You're looking at Cadillac used at $135,000.
I'm not buying an $80,000 pick 'em up truck. I'm buy one of those Toyotas for $36,000, made in Ohio or California, made in California. Yeah. So there you go. That's what.
Well, you might have problems with that. Liberals are making you pickup trucks. I'm not saying they don't have any conservatives out there in California, but
they've got millions of conservatives just the same out in California.
What was that song? I was going to go build a pickup truck, but I got high.
Republican
I got high. Afro man. I was going to go to
Todd,
school, but then I got high.
I screwed up on you, Todd. There, I think I got high.
No, you did. No, but I think California has more Republican voters than any other state, don't they? Makes that maybe Texas, right? Compared to
I'm not sure. Numerically, voters. I don't know how many Republicans are, but Trump got around 4 million Republican votes in there, and he got more than that in Texas, and he got like almost 3 million in New York. So, but yeah, it's big. But the point is, yeah, it's skewed because it's winner takes all. You get all 50 plus electoral votes. So it looks better for leftists than it is. I mean, you take California out of the mix, and Trump wins every one of these elections hands down. I mean, seriously. He wins the popular vote in 2016. He wins the election in 2020, and he wins this one by a wide margin in 2024. But California, New York to a lesser degree, but New York or California, where Trump gets 3.9 million votes and Hillary gets 8 million votes, that's 4 million votes. She won the election by far less than that margin. Trump wins that election by nearly 2 million votes if it wasn't for California in 2016. People overlook that. It greatly skews, and it just shows you the importance of the electoral college system. Without the electoral college system, California would decide our elections. And that's scary.
Yeah, 2020 he got, 2016 he got 31%, and he went up to 34% in 2020, and then of course in 2024 he got 38% in California. Yeah, cut into the Democrat lead quite a bit. Went from 4 million to 6 million. So yeah, it went up quite a bit there.
Okay, so he got 6 million. Then yeah, okay. I thought it was okay. And maybe I'm still thinking back to 2020. But no. The point is that California is not quite all land of fruits and nuts and bizarre things, and it isn't just those Homo sapien phobes out there.
Right? Yeah, there's a lot of good people out there for sure.
And some more breaking news that happened just before we went on air. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson's top aide, was arrested for a DUI last night after events. He backed into a police vehicle. They must have given a sobriety test, and clearly he enjoyed the evening too much. So he got arrested for DUI. That's not a good look. Not a good look.
No, especially in a city where you can easily get a cab, Lyft, or Uber, something like that. Especially you got to think about this. You're a top Republican's right-hand aide, and you've just celebrated a great speech. There's law enforcement all over the place in Washington D.C. That's the time you take the metro, you take the cab, the Uber, whatever. You don't drive, you don't chance it. That's the one day out of the year that you don't chance it. And not to say you should drink and drive or anything like that, but that's the one time you don't chance it for sure.
No, it just shows poor impulse control. It shows also poor judgment.
Yeah.
You never chance it when it comes to drinking and driving.
No, you shouldn't. You
And,
shouldn't.
and
I'm
yeah,
just,
I
I'm
know,
just
I know,
saying.
you know, I didn't
Yeah.
mean it that way.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's out of every day of the year you could get away with it there. That's the one day you don't want to try to do it. I mean, don't do it anyway.
When
It's
it comes to facing responsibility, I got you.
right, absolutely. Yeah, you shouldn't do it anyway as a responsible human being, as an adult. Especially if you're at that level, you should know better. You'd be like, you know what? I had a couple. Let me go ahead and just grab that Uber. You don't need to get your because it's not going to affect. It's going to affect you for sure personally. It's going to affect you professionally, but it's going to affect your boss more because he's going to have to face all the headaches, all the questions, all of this. Are you disciplining the person? Are you letting them go? Are you firing them? And now at this point, he's going to end up having to fire the guy anyway. The guy's going to just have to resign. So he's screwed himself on so many levels, by doing that.
Well, the cost is just so high, and it's worse if accidents are involved.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Peter Turner tuned in here. Maybe he can. He's my Canadian friend, and I believe I'm right on when I say that it's the head of state and general something that appoint the prime minister.
No. You're talking about governor general and the head of state is the king. You're right, but that's just more or less just a figurehead. That's not really like they're involved.
Well, Peter, maybe you can give us an answer on that. Just type it in the comments. We do have a caller waiting to get on. If we got Danny waiting to get on. If when we get a second.
Yeah, if the colonel's ready.
Well, we got a second. I thought Peter was going to call in from the way you were saying that.
Oh no, I figure he'll type it in the comments. He's pretty good that way. Hopefully.
All right, let's get our caller in.
All right, let's. Danny, your line's open.
Well, first of all, before I go into what I was going to say, I got to say, there's out in Pennsylvania, Chris. I like that guy, Scott Perry. You went in U.S.
That's my congressman.
Voting record.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. He was the head of the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, I like him a lot, and I like the two guys in Tennessee, Andy Ogles.
Ogles.
Tim. Yeah, and Tim Burchett.
Yep. Second district congressman. I call him codename Carhartt because he wears the Carhartt jacket nearly everywhere he goes. So yeah, he and I get along fairly well. And Andy, we get along fairly well. We communicate quite.
Yeah, my favorite is actually Tim. Out of, I gotta say, he's very vocal. Both the A+ voters, but I like the fact that I've seen him on a lot of shows, and he's not scared to attack the Uniparty and to call people out in his own party. So I like that about him. He's very aggressive, and he actually works for his constituents so hard that I think he's not going to be intimidated. He's not there to. So he even made a comment that he wasn't worried about losing his seat. So that's what I want to see. People fight like they're not worried about losing their seat. I think that we would get a better result. But that being said, I was calling also to talk about the 5-4 vote in the U.S. Supreme Court striking down the bid to cancel the $2 billion USAID. I'm very disappointed about Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts. And I don't know if you guys remember, I talked about Amy Coney Barrett, how her husband, this was always the problem I had with her ties to the swamp. I talked about this I'm pretty sure I talked about it on your show. I talked about it on another show, but the fact that Jesse Barrett is a lawyer for Fox Corp and Cox Communications. And the problem here is Fox Corp, and I'm sure you guys probably know this stuff, but I mean, it's good for the listeners, is owned by globalist Rupert Murdoch, but it's Paul Ryan who runs Fox News. And then you got the two lead contributors, okay? Karl Rove and Ari Fleischer, who are dirty lobbyists and super PAC donors, who are, and they're consultants at Viacom and Cox Communications. So that's the big problem here, okay? The fact that he's in bed with people who are all shills for the Marxist globalist Bushes. So I think this needs to be talked about. It needs to, there was other people that reported on that she had ties like that. So one of them was Griffin Eichstein reported it. I don't know, back in May 24, 2024. But I don't know what you guys' thoughts on that.
Well, the 5-4 decision from the Supreme Court today is puzzling to say the least, since there was no comment from the majority, not a single comment, which is highly unusual. There was a dissenting opinion issued by Justice Alito, which was excoriating the majority. It makes no sense whatsoever that the court could uphold a judge having the authority to decide what federal expenditures are spent by the executive branch and the legislative branch. That is not the purpose of checks and balances. And what the president did was not unconstitutional, was within his purview as the chief executive. And it proves once again the lie that this is a 6-3 conservative court. This is not a 6-3 conservative court with the fake conservatives, Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts, who has been a fraud all along. These are people who need to be questioned on their loyalty to the Constitution, because they've rubbished it repeatedly. They are unreliable, and you can't count on them. And the sooner they leave the court, the better off they'll be. We need people like Anton Scalia on the court, and Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, not these clowns who are so unreliable. Now, it doesn't surprise me, but it's also unclear what the decision means. Basically, it looks as if it just sends it back to the court. The judge who, Jamal, whatever his name was, that will say you have to spend the money. But the problem with that is that I suspect that they're talking, it was unclear from the judgment, they're talking about existing contracts that had already been signed, work that was already in progress. If that's it, then actually I don't have a major problem with it, because if we cancel the contracts by simply not paying providers, we're welching on a contract, and that's not something the U.S. government should be doing. Even though I want to save that money, I don't think we should be doing that. So I think we have to wait and see what happens here. They're calling it a loss for Trump, but I'm not sure it's a loss. I think it's actually a moment of making the Supreme Court look pretty stupid in their decision making.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a loss for Trump, because at the end of the day, Amy Coney Barrett was put, the people. The other thing I forgot to mention is when you're trying to get a justice in, people got to realize Trump is at the mercy at the Senate Majority Leader. At the time, it was Mitch McConnell, and he wasn't going to give you the great judge. You're at their mercy, and if you put up the judge, and I know he liked the lady in Florida. She was a Cuban lady. But if you put her up and they don't let her in, you can't put her up again. So he had to take Amy Coney Barrett. I know for a fact he didn't want her.
Also, I would say too that if you go back to the first administration, remember that when he ran for office, he said, "Here's my list of potential replacements to the Supreme Court." It's a list that was vetted by his staff, and it was presented to him, no doubt, by rhinos who wanted that to get up to Trump. And he had a number of rhinos around him. If you look at people like Jeff Sessions and others, and so that list went to him, and then he pulled names off that list. Amy Coney Barrett was on there. You notice this time Trump has no such list about who he's going to pick for replacement on the Supreme Court. I suspect this time when people come to Trump and say this person, he's going to be a lot more discerning about what name he puts forward for the court.
Yeah. But the other problem was we're going to have. Well, let's see. These Republicans seem to be. People have been calling out the Republicans a lot since during the picks and stuff. So I think they're petrified. The people, they realize a lot of people are voting Republican now, and they're paying attention now with the voting scores, like I just gave you earlier. So so I think they're going to be more apt to vote. Because I call them out. I call out a lot of the F voters on the radio, on a lot of networks I go on, and that's just to let them know we're looking, we're watching, And I've some of the networks I've called into, like a lot of F voters, like Dan Crenshaw. He's got a 55 F voter tied to AI PAC, and he's part of that Ukraine money laundering scandal. And thing there is, and he's tied to the military-industrial complex. So
Crenshaw is toast. He's done. He's done. Crenshaw is done. He's exposed himself. He got caught on a hot mic talking about Tucker Carlson, and that ended his congressional career. As long as that gets played up by his opponent, showing that he would effing beat the heck out of Tucker Carlson. Yeah, that guy's been exposed for the rhino fraud that he's always been. But as far as the nominations, all this angst about the nominations, only one of them was nearly derailed, and that was Pete Hegseth, and that was because he was on Fox News, and they're demonic. They hate Fox News. for whatever reason. So they tried to submarine it. But of course, the deciding vote was the vice president. So he got it. The one that's only, I think, concerning at the moment is the first name that was mentioned as a nominee, and that is for ambassador to Israel. Why is Mike Huckabee's name not out for vote right now? Why have they not called him for his hearings? Mike Huckabee should be our ambassador in Jerusalem, and it should be at the beginning of this term, not now. It was the first name mentioned, and I think they're intentionally undermining it. One of the most humane people you're ever going to meet. Mike Huckabee, a brilliant, generous man, a former pastor, governor of Georgia, television host, a very polite, respectful man, very smart, very deep. And his name has not gone forward yet. That's the one that concerns me.
Yeah, let me make one correction to what you said. He's governor of Arkansas, not Georgia.
Yeah.
But I know you know.
Did I say Georgia? Did I say Georgia?
You did.
I got Stacey Abrams on my brain.
I can see it.
Of course, I meant Arkansas. His daughter's his daughter's a current Sarah Huckabee Sanders, current governor of Arkansas. Yeah, that just. Sorry, I got my skis out in front of me. Stacey Abrams on the brain. Yes, that's correct. Thank you for correcting me. It is Arkansas. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you very much, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. I really appreciate you calling because the Supreme Court case was important. I think you said great job. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Danny.
Whoops, we got that. Yeah. No, he that's a good question he raised there. We hadn't gotten around to that yet, the 5-4 decision. And look, I mean, once again, exposes John Roberts for the fraud that he is. He's not a conservative. He's never been a conservative. He's a centrist at best, but a leftist center centrist in my view.
Yeah, so we got one comment here. Beth Fraser that says, so future of canceling USAID contracts in the future is still good. We just want signed contracts, essentially. Whenever you go into the next fiscal year, if there's nothing that's already signed, then we probably wouldn't sign anything. And also, you can cancel contracts moving into new fiscal years as well.
Well, also, many of those contracts are just for single-year money. That's very seldom. The
Right.
Department of Defense is one of the few branches that actually has multi-year money, and it's not all the money. It's only some of it. So one of my frustrations delivering equipment to African militaries and training was that it was always 1 year money. And so you had to expend that money that year, which led to a lot of haste and waste because people try to research and come up with the right way to provide it from a vendor, to provide, say, helicopters or rucksacks or rifles, and they rush to get it done so that it gets put on order by the 30th September. And the reason for that is because Congress can never pass a budget. We have a continuing resolution. We lose half the year before we even get the budget. Then it goes through all the bureaucracy. By the time it gets to us, it's June. And by 30 September, you've got to put this on contract or the money is gone. And if it doesn't get on contract, then it's your fault. And guess who doesn't get promoted, in the military?
Exactly.
Because you didn't do your job. But it wasn't your job. It was Congress's job. But anyway, that's not the point. The point here is that a lot of waste as a consequence of that. So multi-year money makes a difference, but it also makes bureaucracies lazy in another respect because they take their time getting things done. So it's a mixed bag one way or the other. Anyway.
Yep. I remember end of the year meetings with the different S shops or J shops and stuff, and talking about how you're going to spend, money that you didn't even know you had, but it was held back to the end of the year to basically blow it at the end of the year. That's a lot of waste built into the system. But of course, the government, the way they force you to spend it at the end of the year, and they don't reward you for turning it back in too. So I've been in a lot of those meetings where you're talking about, oh, I need this, and you're trying to divvy up millions of dollars sometimes.
That's exactly why it's happening. You're at the end of the year. They waited. And so that they didn't need it for another project. And now that they don't need it, they've got to unload it in order to get their budget.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money gets wasted that way at the end of the year.
Well, I think you should just put a basket on your head and walk back to where you came from. So says Kid Rock, Ilhan Omar.
Right, yeah. Walk back to where you came from.
How long before they call him a racist over that?
Oh, man.
Woo. I mean, she did marry her brother. I mean, come on.
Supposedly. Anyway, purportedly.
I hear banjo music playing there.
Squeal like a pig, boy. Ooh, Ned Beatty. Deliverance. That was a long time ago. Wow. Anyway, moving on from that imagery.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That was one of the down parts of the down scenes of the movie. Was that part is like, what the heck am I watching here?
And
they really put that in here.
And what did I say about your program last week when I was absent? Talking about movies, and here we are talking about movies.
Movies.
Movies. Help it, your mind gravitates towards that stuff. They make an impression on you, So once it happens in real life, it becomes relatable.
John, that's where your mind goes. My mind goes to Ilhan Badonkadonk. That's where my mind goes. Not Ilhan, sorry, AOC Badonkadonk.
AOC, yeah. Yeah, Ilhan Omar.
That girl's so skinny she can't even cast a shadow. It's terrible.
She has to buy a shadow. That's pretty sad. But seriously, Donald Trump, holy cow, folks, last night said we're taking back the Panama Canal. I'm waiting for my activation orders to be recalled to active duty to occupy the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
You almost sound like you want to go.
Panama? No. Greenland? Yes. You can have Panama. I'll take Greenland. I liked how you addressed it for Greenland, Todd. He's like, Greenland, we agree with your aspirations to be independent, but if you'd like to become a state, we'll happily welcome you to the fold. That was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're not invading Greenland. And of course, the Democrats agendaed up to try to make people think that we're going to even remotely discuss invading Greenland. Whenever Pete Hegseth was being grilled by the members of the Senate, are you going to, help Donald Trump's plan to invade Greenland? He's like, basically like, I'm not going to comment on any plan that may or may not exist, but we don't have, we're not looking to invade Greenland. What are you talking about?
That's not what we do.
No, I mean, it's foolish, but that's what they wanted to play up. So.
Talk about worried people. Did you hear about that trip Trudeau supposedly made to the head of the state about Trump declaring that we're going to be the 51st state?
I did not. What happened?
I just heard something about it. I didn't hear a whole lot of details, but supposedly he went to visit King Charles to discuss the issue about Trump saying that we were going to be 51st state. I didn't get the details. I was kind of hoping you guys did.
I did not. I don't pay a lot of attention to the British monarch. I think he's a fool, and I've never found him remotely interesting. I kind of thought his mother would hang on to 120, and that way he'd be gone and would go right to the grandkids.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
she tried. She did her best. She served for over 70 years, but just couldn't run out the clock. George. Or what was is it King George? What's his name there? No, it's
Charles.
Charles.
Charles
the third. Yeah. Well, the last one was beheaded, Charles II. So that didn't go so well. That didn't go so well. But Charles II there, he King George. That was Independence time. But yeah, King Charles. I thought that maybe skip right over him to one of the sons. Go to the bald one. He's got his head together, not the other lunatic who marries D-list actresses.
Who may or may not be Charles's actual biological son, So
you're telling me that's Steve Wyatt's son.
whoever that guy is, that was good friends with her and was a lover or confidant.
I do believe it was Steve Wyatt from Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
But you look at the guy and look at him, and you're like, well, I think that might be his son.
Wow, could be my nephew.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with King Charles III, the country's head of state, on Monday. It was expected to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to make Canada the 51st state. Trudeau received a warm welcome, yada, yada, yada. So basically, they didn't give any details about what went on in the meeting.
And you don't. Yeah. The meetings, prime ministers meet with the king or the head of state. They do not discuss that at all.
Of course. Unless you want to put somebody on the spot, such as certain Zelensky Trump meeting recently, but that's a different story. But I mean, it was concerning enough for him to run over to England and start balking. But then, his concerns are he wants to remain a sovereign nation. Are you a sovereign nation or not a sovereign nation if you're dependent upon the king?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but they do need to. They do have to speak to the head of state on a somewhat regular basis, at least annually, right? Give a report.
Well, it's part of they're part of the Commonwealth. That's where that comes
from. Commonwealth realms, yeah.
But I mean, look, the king is the head of state for Australia too. But I mean, it's really a ceremonial sort of thing. It's not like they actually run anything. But I just
that's too much for me. This is the United States of America. We pretty much just kicked their butts, kicked them out, and said enough. Not once, but twice.
Yes, but we invaded Canada twice and we lost twice. But we didn't lose because
hey, let's not bring up bad history.
But we didn't lose because of Canadians. We lost because of smallpox.
Yeah,
smallpox defeated us at the gates of Quebec. Smallpox defeated us twice. Weakened our army and we had to retreat. So that's why it wasn't the Canadians who defeated us. It was smallpox.
And you got to think the Brits in those days had a global empire. We weren't the biggest, the issue at the time. I think India was their bigger threat or bigger problem. Plus they were fighting the French as well. I mean, and of course, a lot of problems they had around the world. So I don't know if we were just one of many, I believe.
So I just realized that we haven't talked about Zelensky and Trump yet. That occurred after our show last week, didn't it?
That's right. Yeah, right. We didn't talk about him. Yeah.
Interesting little debacle.
But it's so funny is it kind of took care of itself because Zelensky, after he left, he went to Fox News, kind of realized he screwed up, and then like the next day, he's like, "Oh, I'm willing to talk peace. Oh, I love what Trump had to say. Let's get back in the room."
Yeah, didn't Trump cut off whatever remaining money or something? And
not only he suspended all military aid yesterday. and they've also suspended intelligence sharing. That's going to kill Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to kill them.
Well, he
So-
told him he didn't have the cards. I mean, he said it. You don't have the cards. What? We're not playing cards.
No, the whole thing was pretty sad how the media covered it here. First off, Zelensky was a guest. Let's put this in perspective. When Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, went to Kiev over a week and a half ago, they had an agreement for this deal. And by the way, we were misled by the media telling us, oh, Trump's just taking their minerals. No, the deal was that it was a deal to get the U.S. involved with skin in the game in Ukraine's economy and put ourselves at risk by being involved in their economy. And then the profit from rare earth element mining, 50% to the government of Ukraine, 50% to the U.S. to repay us for the $280 billion in loans we've given them. Of the $350 billion, the other $70 billion was grants or thereabouts. So that's what it was all about. In that light, people look at it much more favorably. They thought we were just trying to steal minerals from Ukraine. So he agreed to sign it in Kiev. He comes out of the meeting and he says, goes in front of the cameras and does what he always does with the little wuss leaders of the UK or the European countries, including the UK, Germany, France. He gets out there and he steals the microphone and says, oh, no, and I'm not going to sign this. I'll sign it in Munich, where the vice president's at. So it goes to Munich, and then we see J.D. Vance get up, and he's warmly welcomed by the Germans. I think I did this last week. I say, oh, welcome. And so it's last year he was senator. This year he's the vice president of America. We welcome tonight Vice President J.D. Vance. Please give a warm welcome for him. Then J.D. Vance gets up and says, I'm not concerned about Russia and China and the threats from outside. I'm concerned about the threats within from the fascist censorship of European citizens. Jaws drop in the room. Then the guy that warmly welcomed gets up and goes, we do not agree with you, Vice President. We do not agree with him. Anyway, so after that epic show, what happened was that, Zelensky was there. He refused to sign it then. That's twice he's reneged. Then he comes to Washington. They spend 90 minutes discussing it in private. Diplomatically, they work it out. The deal is done. The lunch is prepared. All they got to do is come out and greet the press and then go sign the thing. And then 39 minutes of Trump being patient, very patient, trying to calm the room down, trying to be disarming, joking about, things with Zelensky. And then Zelensky, in response to Vance, starts this lecturing nonsense, which he's been doing with Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Angela Merkel, Olaf Scholz, France there, Emmanuel Macron, all these clowns have been doing this for years and getting away with it because they're all wusses. And then finally, Trump's saying, no. You don't say what we're going to feel. No. He had to go with you have a big, beautiful ocean, and that's when Trump shut him down. And the media lose their minds, absolutely lose their minds.
It was almost a veiled threat in there, right? He goes, you have a big, beautiful ocean, meaning there's a barrier between you and what goes on over in Ukraine. But he says, one day you're going to feel this.
Exactly. And that's when Trump lost his patience. And even then Trump, and I love, he's like, can I say, no, you've done plenty of talking. That was the best line.
Yeah. He does that. He's incredible that way. He shuts people down and they just shut up.
That was the best line. And then Zelensky tried to talk over him. You're the guest in the Oval Office at the White House. You've come to beg for something. You've been given what you begged for. By the way, Zelensky walked away. He doesn't get U.S. involved in the economy, so we have no skin in the game. He was also going to get tons of military aid as a consequence of signing that agreement. All he had to do was agree to a ceasefire. The man doesn't want peace.
He wants to hold out for NATO. He thinks he's going to get NATO. And what Trump's really doing, he's putting citizens in the ground in Ukraine, which is almost as good. You know what I mean? Because Russia's not going to go attacking Ukraine with U.S. citizens over there working for minerals.
Right. And meanwhile, we've got idiots running the United Kingdom like Keir Starmer that are committing his country to defending Ukraine and putting British troops on the ground. The problem with that, ladies and gentlemen, is we have an Article 5 requirement to defend a NATO member that's been attacked. So if Britain puts troops on the ground and they're hit by the Russians, are we obliged to go involved in their colonialist war? I don't think we are.
I don't think so.
They can make the argument that we have an obligation to defend them, and then NATO falls apart.
Right, but it's not like the UK was attacked directly. They put themselves in a harm's way. To me, it's a little bit different,
I agree, but they're going to scream for it. And
sure they will.
And the low information voters, which appear to be over half the people who actually vote around the world, will fall for it. Oh,
absolutely.
The evil Americans, they're sticking their nose in our business. That's not a British accent. That's a weak German one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The special relationship. Why aren't you backing the special relationship? They would back us and all this stuff. It's like they chose to go somewhere we said don't go there. They went anyway. That's what's going to be the scenario.
That's exactly the truth. But the truth doesn't matter. It's how it's painted.
Yeah.
People are sheep. Yeah, they really are, and they'll believe anything that they're told by the mainstream media and by lying politicians. Look, Zelensky is at fault here. Putin started the war, but Joe Biden is the proximate cause. Without Joe Biden, there wouldn't have been a war. There still would have been underlying difficulties, but never would have been a war. With Joe Biden, it made it feasible, and Putin said, "There'll never be anybody dumber than this guy. Now's the time," and he invaded. Yeah. After he sent 70,000 troops to the border for 7 months to make a show about what he was going to do. And Biden ignored that for 6 months and then finally up and goes, "Oh, look at all the Russian troops on the border." And it was funny because that's when Biden's popularity fell to 34%. Suddenly, Ukraine. Yeah, anyway.
Yep.
So there you have it. That's the real
world. Yeah. Like you said, he ignored it for 3 months, and all of a sudden Putin basically just tested the waters, was like, "Oh, we're just doing an exercise. No, we can walk across the border and take what we want." And that's what they did.
Right. Well, that was 70,000 troops in addition to the ones that were already on the border or those in the Crimea to begin with. And it was obvious that he was putting troops in position for an invasion, which he didn't do in the spring. He didn't do in the summer. He waited till wintertime, which makes sense if you look at it. If you want your armor to roll, you don't want to roll in the mud. You want to roll in frozen mud. It's like concrete. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that made sense when at the time they attacked. Not a surprise at all. But remember, guys, that happened when I rocked up at CPAC the night I arrived in Orlando 3 years ago. I got there from my flight. I got my car, got to the Hilton, checked in, turned the TV on, and boom, the invasion is started.
That is right. Wow. Yeah.
It was February 22nd or something like that.
3 years. Holy. Wow.
I know. And then, this fact that we just kind of skipped right over CPAC this year when it's right down the road for me.
Yeah.
I should have gone.
Yeah. I was thinking that it was later February, like 1st of March time frame.
So did I. It caught me off guard.
I got the dates wrong. Yeah.
I think we got subsumed, like the leftists just going like, bad, getting bombed, boom, 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 boom. All the Trump executive orders were like, rolling with the punches here. Every 5 minutes, Trump is issuing another executive order. We got to respond to it. And we forgot the CPAC was on.
Yeah.
Well, you did say that you were going sleepless for quite some time trying to keep up with Trump's movements. He was just, he has been really rapidly moving and getting things pulled together here.
I'm still sleepless, and it's not in Seattle, man. It's in central Pennsylvania. Oh my goodness, it's killing me here. Yeah, a little catnap here, a little catnap there, but lots going on. And Trump is making it happen. But it's actually been a slowdown lately. It's mostly like list of accomplishments and public statements and such, and not many executive orders come out. But we'll see which ones come next. But they keep trying to strike him down with lawsuits. But I mean, I know that the Trump administration was ready for this, Todd. They anticipated this, and they have a bevy of lawyers ready to refute all this stuff.
Right. Yeah. A lot of great lawyers now ready to go. And I think he's gotten away from some of those bombastic lawyers that are looking to grandstand and make a name for themselves. He's gotten real courtroom lawyers that are looking to not make a name for themselves, but get the job done. And that's how they'll make the name for themselves.
Well, a lot of lawyers were scared away when people were frightened and they were afraid to stand up for Trump when it looked like everything was stacked against him and they had all this lawfare against him. But now that, it's like all he does is win, 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 no matter what. Everybody wants to get back on board. Look at the tech titans coming to kiss the ring. Look at Misha and Joe from Morning Joe coming over to kiss the ring. The only people not kissing the ring are the shrews on the Dystopian View who still spew their hysteria every day. I don't watch that show, but everybody does clips of it, so you can't help but come across the outrageous things that they say there. That Sonny Houston, that woman, she needs a brain enema. She really does. There's something wrong with that woman.
I don't even know who they are, let alone watching them. Oh,
one of them. You know Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah,
Whoopi,
know that one. I do recall that the View started with Barbara Walters, and it was
Barbara Wawa.
To be well balanced and logical and reasoning, and it turned into some kind of monstrous crap show, and with Whoopi. But that's about all I know about it. Didn't somebody just get canceled here recently for something they did or said
on the View?
I don't remember if it was a View or if it was a different show. I can't remember.
I think MSNBC.
Lots of people. They've got rid of Joy. Or not. They've got rid of.
That was it.
There's several people from MSNBC and others that have been let go in recent
Joyless Reed. Joyless Reed. That's who you're thinking of. Joyless Reed was just let go. My show had value. No, it was a race hustling, racist premise piece of filth that have divided this country, and you had nothing but horrible things to say. And you lied on your show every night, Joy Reid. You claim your parents, these people come here just like your parents. Your parents came here legally, to my knowledge. Yeah. These people are criminal alien invaders. They're not the same. They're not migrants. They're not immigrants. They're criminals. They shall go home. And if they don't self-deport, we'll find a bus or a mule wagon to put them on. I say we go with an 80-team oxen boron train and take them right through the deserts of the Southwest and drop them on the border.
Yep, let them go. See you later, sayonara, goodbye. Don't come back.
That's right. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah.
My family lineage is like you, Chris. They come across on a very, very wooden ship, a big wooden ship with a whole lot of cells. It was about a 60-day voyage. Way back in the day, the 1600s.
Yeah.
You said your parents, came over like your parents did.
Oh, no. Joyless Reed's parents were immigrants. They came here. Okay. I mean, she was born here when she was born, but her parents came over from the Caribbean. And so she's trying to compare legal immigrants to criminals who come in the country.
Oh, she's comparing to her own parents. I thought she's
correct. Yeah, and it just doesn't work like that. But it flies for the low information crowd who can't discern the difference between four categories of people that we look at in America here. We got migrants. Migrants are legal, authorized people come here with a visa to do things like farming. You got South Africans who come over, they do farming for 6 months, and then they go back. You've got people come from Latin America who come up to pick, in the fields of California for 6 months, and then they go home. And then so that's a migrant. Then you have an immigrant. That's a hard barrier. You got to not have a criminal record. You got to have skills to come to America. You spend lots of money for lawyers. You come here, you get a permanent residency card, you stay here. That's an immigrant. So migrant, immigrant. Then you have asylum seeker. That's someone who is from a country where they're in danger, their life is in danger. Say you're a homosexual in Syria and you happen to be here on some reason legally, and then you run to the police and go, I seek asylum. You can claim asylum like Mikhail Baryshnikov would do back in the 1980s from the Soviet Union. And then that's get adjudicated by a court. Unfortunately, our courts are full of millions of people who are not asylum seekers, who are frauds, economic migrants who've been led in the country and clogged up our court system.
Yep.
And then you have the last category, which are refugees. These are people who are registered refugees around the world who are allowed to immigrate in this country every year. And we get somewhere between 30 to 150,000 on average every year. And these people we bring in, and they are allowed to stay here immediately. They're allowed to work immediately. Asylum seekers are not legally allowed to work. They are. But I have to say one thing about last night's speech by Donald Trump that was just absolutely brilliant. I don't recall if I said this the first hour. Donald Trump completely rubbished the lies of the Democrats, which I've been refuting for years. And the Republicans are holding up comprehensive immigration reform. That's why all these people are here. They won't reform our immigration law, which is outdated. It's wrong. It's unfair. No. So Trump got it and said, no, you're talking about we need legislation. All we have to do is enforce the law. Look what happens when we enforce the law. It's like you got a president that does his job. Oh, that's the difference.
See, they liked it when Obama says, I don't need a piece of legislation. I got a paper and pen.
Yep.
He was talking about executive order. Now, Trump's doing the same sort of thing, but it roles reverse. And Trump's actually doing it for the right reasons.
Yep.
He's not creating quasi-government. He's actually trying to reduce the quasi-government. He's trying to reduce departments, usher in responsible spending, and enforce the law as far as immigration goes. So you missed a category of immigrants. Now we got the new gold card standard.
No, those are immigrants. They're
immigrants, but they're
legal, right?
Well, all legal immigrants are immigrants, as opposed to migrants who are visa holders who come here for a specific purpose and leave.
I just wanted to squeeze in the gold.
Okay, all right. I prefer the black card from Visa.
But let me ask you: do you like the idea? And I kind of like it. But do you like the idea of somebody having to pony up, say, $5 million to rush to go the head of the line to be vetted? Because I think it's okay to be able to pay. It's no guarantee that you get in, though.
There's two things about that, right? There's going to be, if you have $5 million to spend on that, you're getting a quality person coming into the country who's probably a business leader, who's going to bring something to the country. And the other thing is, it's the whole purpose of it is meant to help to buy down our debt. So if they're contributing to buy down our debt, then it's a good thing, I think. But
if you've got money to be able to bring it, and they want you to bring the money into U.S. banks, basically deposit your money here, do your business here. That's what they're looking for. Bring in best and brightest. And somebody asked me the other day, they're like, well, what about the criminals who could afford to pay $5 million? Well, that's part of the vetting process. You'll be able to keep the drug dealers out, and of course keep their money. That's what that would do.
Yeah, absolutely. Trump did say that. He was loud and clear about that. They still will go through a vetting process, and like you said earlier, there's no guarantee. Right. I mean, if you're part of MS-13 and you got $5 million and you're trying to walk into the country,
not going to happen.
Yeah, you can hang that up, but we'll take your money though.
Yep.
So I my opinion on this is that I think it's gauche to sell the concept of selling citizenship. We sound like St. Nevis and Kitts. or St. Kitts and Nevis, whatever. I always get it backwards. And some of these Caribbean islands, I really don't like that concept. Or Malta, you can buy your citizenship. That you can't buy fealty to a nation. I have no problem with allowing people, high net worth individuals, to get a permanent residency card if they come here and invest in the economy.
Yeah.
And then after a period of time, if they're law abiding and they show fealty to our government and they renounce their foreign citizenship, then they can become citizens. But the idea that, and I'm not saying that's what he's saying, but the idea that you can buy your way to citizenship, I have a problem with that. That's gauche. Being an American isn't money. Being an American isn't ethnicity. Being an American is an idea. You have to conform to the ideas. Unlike the Democrats who don't believe in the Constitution and really believe in what America is, because of course they're Homo sapien phobes.
Right. Yeah. I agree with it.
Told me when it comes to teaching people something, always charge, John. Charge them. Because if you charge them, they'll have a value to it. They'll appreciate what it is you're teaching them. But if you give it to them for free, they won't have any value to it. They won't appreciate anything about it is because they didn't earn it. They didn't do anything for it. They can discard it. There's no loss to them. It's like trying to pay for people's school. Biden wants to give free colleges free. If you don't earn your way through it, you won't value it. You can disregard it at the expense of the American people. So as far as buying your way into citizenship, I mean, it's not really buying your way in. You want it. You're seeking it. It's just getting you to the front of the line.
Well, John, I appreciate where you're coming from, but I would offer a counterpoint that most legal immigrants who come here and who eventually file to be citizens do it because they're hungry for it. And not many of them are wealthy. Many of them are people who just come here and provide their skills and contribute to our economy, become part of the country. And as far as money for college, I mean, I was dirt poor. I went to university on a student loan and a grant my first time through. Now, admittedly, I was 17 and not appropriately focused for what I should have been doing. But I didn't treat the money as a free ride from people. And when I arguably failed after that first year, I wasn't kicked out of school, but I left because I wasn't ready for what I was doing. I came back with a determination to make all my grades right and do better. I appreciate where you're coming from both points, but it's not blanket. It's not universal. There are people who are exceptions, and particularly when it comes to immigration, people that want to become citizens because that's what they want and they earn it. I find it's a little off-putting too. It's like when they first announced the minerals thing for Ukraine. I'm like, oh, wait a second. We're going to give them money if they give us minerals. That's no. But then when I heard more details of the plan, it was to give us 50% of the profit, not revenue, 50% of the profit to Ukraine, so they still have some money coming in, and it's going to pay down the loans that they borrowed from us. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Gets us in the game, gives us a reason to be vested in Ukraine. But Ukraine, not part of NATO. Not going to happen. Sorry.
No, I don't think so. It's too big of a risk. It's what Trump was saying. If we bring them into NATO, they've been too contentious with Russia for too many centuries now. They start getting contentious with Russia. Things start blowing up over there. Now we have an obligation to be there. And this is what he meant by when he said you can usher in World War III.
Well, I mean, look, Russia began in Kievan Rus, founded by Vikings. That's where Russia began. That's the Russian state, and later it moved to Moscow, and became a very backward, inward-looking, retrenched society. But Kievan Rus, the Russians have always had designs on Ukraine because it's Russian in their minds. They're not.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah, there's a relationship there. It's a long, long relationship. Long before the United States has been around, as far as I know.
So Doge has reduced one agency down to a single employee.
Oh, really? What's that one?
The Inter-American Foundation, whose primary action was to issue foreign grants and a $60 million budget. They have one active employee left.
Yeah, let's get rid of it. Let's wrap it up. Close out all the bank accounts, whatever you got.
He's the one they got there to dust off the table and close the door and lock it.
That's it.
They maybe mop the floors too, because he has to be his own IT specialist too, in case his computer fails. But here's an example of some of the things that they were spending money on: $60 million a year, $903,811 for alpaca farming in Peru. We have alpacas in America. Why are we paying for it in Peru?
Yeah.
$813,210 for vegetable gardens in El Salvador. They grow plenty of vegetables. Why are we paying for it? $731,105 to improve marketability of mushrooms and peas in Guatemala, and even $364,500 to reduce social discrimination of recyclers in Bolivia. Are you serious? We are giving Bolivians $364,500 to reduce social exclusion of people recycling rubbish in Bolivia. I don't think that's money wisely spent.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of money not being wisely spent. That's a problem.
I like how President Trump said last night, sedentary migrants. Somebody knows what that is, and he listed, then he listed
How
off
can
a
you be a
country.
sedentary migrant? It's
don't
the
understand.
act of migrating is moving.
Yeah, how did you get here?
Apparently, they must sit on a conveyor belt.
Yeah, a
They're on
little
that conveyor
chair.
belt. Yeah,
Yeah, a
well,
little
that's
chair.
yeah. You put chairs on a conveyor belt to that immigration fraud that the Biden regime has brought people in. They put them on a conveyor belt, so they're sedentary in their chair as they're moved around the country. Sedentary migrants.
I was going to say sedentary could be that they're not working. And
Yeah, you could say I didn't enter the country illegal. I was on a conveyor belt. It happened to go across the border. I don't know what happened there.
Well, that's probably true. A lot of busing going on.
No, well, maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't sedentary. Maybe what it meant to say is the sediment, which was clogging up the works. Ooh.
Well, yeah, I think more or less what he means for real though is people that aren't going to work but are going to take benefits. Yeah, I think that's more or less what he's looking at there.
Yeah,
maybe.
You mean American? You mean Americans?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of Americans that take benefits too and do nothing.
Yeah,
a lot of them, and we need to send them to somewhere else. I don't know, or let them fall off a big cliff. I don't know.
Canada, it's open.
Blame Canada.
I'll tell you what, you asked earlier about one of the favorite things, and I don't know if we covered that or not, but yeah, we did, declaring M13 as terrorist. That has to come back. I have to echo that one, man. That's great, not just M13 gangs, but other gangs as well. And that's just bringing down the drug cartels is a big deal.
Yeah,
I agree.
Drugs are the ruin of the United States of America. And if we can start stopping that and get that under control and maybe eliminate it altogether, it would do wonders for our country.
Well, stopping the flow is one aspect of it, but the social decay and degradation in single-parent families and lack of moral responsibility has to start in families and in communities. We have to fix that first because that will stop the demand, and then the supply will just it won't be there anymore. But folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives on our 200th episode ever. Congratulations to my co-host tonight as we celebrate our 200th episode here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 on your FM dial. And guys, before we run out of time tonight, we've just got about 8 minutes left on this. I did want to broach the topic of the mayors who testified today at the Congress. That would be Michelle Wu from Boston.
Yep.
Apparently she's Catholic. I saw that she had ash on her forehead. And then Brandon Johnson from Chicago, as well as the Denver mayor. And I think it was Eric Adams from New York was the fourth one. All of whom, in my view, are evil leftists. What are your thoughts on this, Todd? Any thoughts on what they had to say or what should be done to them?
Yeah, not much on what they had to say. I can't believe anything that they say at this point. I mean, they've been on, especially far leftist, mayors. And of course, Eric Adams, I don't trust anything he has to say. I think he's criminal, think he's corrupt. So nothing they had to say added any value for sure. Just led me to believe that some of these people need to be ousted from office, and we don't need to be sending any federal dollars to their cities like Chicago or New York.
Well, the problem I have with the Denver mayor is when he's asked whether he loves Americans, he said, "I love all residents of my city." Well, dude, you're housing criminal alien invaders. So if you love criminal alien invaders, then you are part and parcel of federal crimes, and you should be prosecuted for it. Yeah, that's my thoughts. What about you, John?
Well, I was under the impression that at least states have a right to nullify law, but Trump was quite clear about it last night. That's fine. You know what? You don't have to enforce a law, but there's nothing to prevent the United States of America from enforcing its laws. The federal government has a legal right to do so. And I don't know if mayors have that same authority as a governor does, but
yeah, you can't interfere in federal law enforcement doing their job.
Yeah, you cannot obstruct justice. You cannot do that, and therefore, if they are obstructing justice, like hiding people and stuff like that, I hope they're held accountable, of course, because they're breaking the law. But yeah, Trump was quite clear. He says if you're gonna violate these executive orders and you're gonna violate the law and you're just not getting federal funding, we're cutting you off.
And that's the thing, the crux of the whole matter here. So this whole concept of nullification is actually something conservatives were pushing when Obama was in office and even a little bit when Biden was in office, to ignore the laws that the federal government is passing because you have the right as a state to nullify that. That's a highly contentious legal argument, and I think it's a dangerous slope to get on. But I think Trump has the right approach here. Don't worry about nullification from the states. Simply do not give federal funding for highways, for schools, for bridges, for dams, for anything, because these states have become, almost every state has become so dependent, and every educational institution is so dependent on taxpayer money from the federal government and deficit spending that they will stop misbehaving. The NAAC, or the NCAA, confusing with the National Association for Colored People.
Very simple.
You can say colored people, isn't that rude? No, but NAACP, the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, they backed off of the males and female sports instantaneously. And of course, we had that fabulous exchange with the governor of Maine. Is the governor of Maine in the room? I'm right here. I'm taking you to court. Well, that should be fun. Go ahead, take us to court.
You're lightweight. You're lightweight.
Victory on that one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what's up?
That'll be an easy one. That's an easy one right there. Yeah.
I hope that you got some plans for future, because you don't have a future in politics, elected office.
No, you don't. You don't.
No, but anyway, so I mean, look. The bottom line is that they're so dependent on money from Uncle Sugar that it's a real threat. Just cut the money off, and they either fold their tent. Look, I mean, some institutions in this country refuse to take money from the federal government. Hillsdale College will not take money from the federal government. They won't take money from any government organization. And Hillsdale's been a successful college for a century and a half in Michigan there. So more power to them. You know, you should never get addicted to the sweet flavor of government handouts. Once you've got your tongue on that, it's hard to unfreeze it from that pole. And that's the bottom line here. And that's a lesson that a lot of leftists are going to learn the hard way now, like Michelle Wu, like Brandon Johnson, as their cities crumble around them and they're voted out of office for their intransience.
What you just described, isn't that like the drug dealer giving you the free taste the first time around?
That's right. Here's a little sample. No, man, it's on me. You just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Hey, that was pretty good. Can I get some more? Yeah, here's some more. Can I get some more? $10. $10. That seems reasonable. Okay. 20. 100. 100. Well, look, I got a street corner. You can pay it off. Ooh.
Yep.
Right. That's the downfall. I had a friend that was in business, and all he talked about was profits. He had profits on the brain all the time, but he used to also say, he who pays the bills makes the decisions. And that's what it comes down to. You know, you got the money, you're paying the bills. You're the one who makes the decisions.
Oh, the bottom line with business is, in order to be a going concern, you have to turn a profit. You can't operate in deficit. You have to pay those bills. You have to pay those loans off. So you must generate a profit in order to reinvest or to grow a company or just to stay in business. You know, and people that lose sight of that are fools. You know, you can't run a business as a social endeavor. You know, Patagonia thinks they can get away with it, but then when they open their mouth, they irritate their customers and their sales slump. I don't buy anything from Patagonia because it's a bunch of leftists who pretend to care about the world and pretend that they engage in fair trade when they do anything but that. And they get away with that because that's their social marketing. But I'm just not buying that from these companies. So I think that people who focus on turning a profit and employing people at a fair wage and compensating them fairly do very well in this world, by and large, as long as they have a product and service people want.
Right.
My point was, a guy could be a little shady. But the idea is that is the guy who's paying the bills. You know, when the government's paying the bills, they make the decisions. When Trump's got the money and he's holding the purse, and you don't want to go along with it, well, guess what? He's paying the bills. Either you're gonna go along with it, or you're not. If you're not, you get cut off. That's simple.
That's a fair point, and I think that we all should not lose sight of that. That money that Trump is throwing around and pulling back is our money, or money that we have to borrow and our grandkids will have to pay off. And that's the irony of people around the world complaining about PEPFAR money being cut off and about AID money being cut off. You expect us to build a bridge in Uganda for people locally when the government of Uganda is not doing it, so that my grandchildren can pay off the loan that we borrowed that money 30 years from now at 3 times what we borrowed? That doesn't seem fair. Yeah. Why should we be doing that? If you're going to build a bridge in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, those bridges in
the world. That's the whole problem. We're spreading money out through the globe, trying to do everything for everybody in the globe. People got to pick up their own work. People got to pick up their own slack. We need to worry about the United States of America. You cannot be a beacon of light of hope for the rest of the world if you don't take care of yourself first. When that plane is going down, you got to grab your oxygen first. Then you can assist the person next to you.
Yeah, you can't be the beacon of light if you can't keep the light on. That's right. Good job.
There you go.
There you go. But the bottom line here, look, I'm not opposed to foreign aid. I am opposed to waste and ridiculous things. And that's what we're exposing here. There's all kinds of fraud and nonsense going on, and the Doge and the government are exposing it. And I think that's fantastic. So it's interesting to see that they hate Elon Musk now because he was the darling of the left.
for the longest time. Buying a Tesla was a status symbol for the left. Now, all of a sudden.
Now they want to sell them. They paid the money for the car. It doesn't hurt Elon Musk, but now they're selling them in protest.
Oh, well.
Well, they're putting stickers on the bumper and said, in my defense, I bought this before he went crazy.
Are they?
Yeah, they got bumper stickers on ones in DC. In my defense, I bought this before Elon went crazy. Well, whatever.
I would have thought of that. I could be the one making the money off of it.
All right, folks, that's it for episode 200. We'll see you next week right here on the Common Sense Service. Good night to my co-host. Congratulations, Tom McKinley and John Grosvenor. Cheers, everybody.